Chapter 2949. A first ancestor had fallen. He was still threatening Yi Qinghan a moment ago, but he was killed in the next moment. A battle between experts usually ended in an instant. Yi Qinghan and the Flaming Emperor were indeed extremely powerful, but none of their opponents were amateurs. The slightest carelessness could turn the tables. The primal chaos ancestor's heart was shattered, and his body was sent flying by Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's fist blasted his head apart. Yi Qinghan's dying strike had brought his soul outside of the five elements, making him deader than dead. Puff! Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of essence blood as a sharp sword pierced through his chest from his back. Being outside of the five elements didn't mean that he wouldn't die. It depended on how powerful the attacker was. Whoosh! Buzz! The ancestral sword, controlled by the divine will, stirred in Yi Qinghan's body, almost destroying his life force. Hum! Roar! The colorful snake swallowed all the energy and charged toward the ancient heavenly emperor. Its face was torn apart by the ancient heavenly emperor's sword, and its huge body was almost destroyed. Boom! Hum! The colorful snake was instantly injured, but it gave Yi Qinghan a chance. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan pulled out the ancestral sword and shattered it. He glared at the ancient heavenly emperor and said in a hoarse voice, "Let's see who will help you today. Can you still fight?" The ancient heavenly emperor sneered in disdain. He waved his hand and formed a sword with his origin energy. The sword trembled and broke through mountains and rivers as it charged toward Yi Qinghan. Hum! Boom! The sword's momentum was like a rainbow, cleaving in all directions. Even the borders of the Qiu Tian domain were collapsing. Yi Qinghan stood in place and didn't dodge. He waved his hand and formed a saber against the five elements. It wasn't the 7-foot berserk saber, but the Tonggu saber. The saber was thin and narrow, and it was weakened by gravity. Its lethality was sharp, and it had an advantage against the ancestral sword. Whoosh! Whoosh! Tonggu's blade cut through the shackles and fiercely hacked at the ancestral sword. Qi soared into the galaxy and destroyed the source of the ancestral realm in the distance. The source was stimulated and directly exploded. In a split second, brutal power drowned out everything. The wound on Yi Qinghan's chest was torn open once again. Blood swords shot out as his body twisted and his face contorted. He lost control of his body and was sent flying countless miles away. Puff! Cough cough, Yi Qinghan was coughing up blood incessantly. His previous injuries had been magnified infinitely, and his battle prowess had weakened by several times. There was nothing he could do about it. He had already sustained serious injuries during the 4-on-1 battle, and they had been severely injured. Later on, it was 2-on-1, and his injuries had worsened. Although he had managed to kill a progenitor, his injuries had worsened to the point where he was close to death. Puff! Blurg! Yi Qinghan's body trembled as he retreated while holding his blade. His injuries were magnified by the explosion of the progenitor's source. He coughed up blood incessantly, and his internal organs were about to shatter. You bastard, you're even more shameless than the primordial Yin-Yang Emperor. Be careful that your parents don't die from anger in hell. Don't forget, ancient heavenly emperor, your father was only willing to be killed by the Flame Emperor because he was in despair. Your mother committed suicide to protect you. But you've taken Yan Yu and the primordial Yin-Yang Emperor as your godfathers. Do you have to kneel and lick their boots every night? The ancient heavenly emperor was furious. He once again hacked down with his sword. Brat, you don't understand my heart, and I don't need anyone to understand. Die, whoosh. A sword descended from the sky, slashing down on Yi Qinghan's head. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan couldn't resist anymore. If he did, his reverse 5 elements body would collapse. Thus, his body turned into nothingness and dissipated in the seeking heaven domain. When he reappeared, he was already 3,000 meters away. Don't say that the world doesn't understand you. I really don't understand why you kneel and lick the primordial yin-yang and yen-yu. Could it be that you served them well enough that they let you step into the progenitor realm? Does your daughter know why you're doing this? Your parents definitely don't know. I don't want to blaspheme heroic martyrs, but for them to give birth to a bastard like you, they definitely won't be able to rest in peace. Sovereign Ye's words were extremely vicious. Shut up. Bastard. The ancient heavenly emperor flew into a rage and charged at Yi Qinghan with his sword. Bastard, you're the one who should shut up. Bastard, I can already imagine how you kneel to that yin-yang freak and that old bastard Yen-yu. Will they tie a chain around your neck? Will they abuse you? Do you know how to moan? How do they act when they're in orgasm? Sovereign Yi was unscrupulous, scolding the ancient heavenly emperor until his heart was burning with rage. The ancient heavenly emperor couldn't catch up to Yi Qinghan even after dozens of attempts. He was so angry that he roared. Yi Qinghan kept getting closer to the primordial yin-yang, causing the ancient heavenly emperor to follow suit. At this moment, the primordial yin-yang and yen-yu were fighting with their lives on the line, forcing the flame emperor to retreat step by step. Blood stained the void. Progenitor realm experts were all fighting with their lives on the line. No one was weak, let alone the founder of the Flame Clan and an existence that ruled the ancient times. No matter how strong the Flame Emperor was, he was at most invincible among sovereigns. Without Yen-yu, he could kill the primordial yin-yang. Without the primordial yin-yang, he could also kill Yen-yu easily. However, the situation would quickly turn around once they joined forces. Roar! Swoosh swoosh! The mortal sovereign sword in the Flame Emperor's hand was almost pushed to the limit. Boom! Bang! The Flame Emperor was fighting 1 against 2. The combination of the two was definitely stronger than the ancient heavenly emperor and the primordial chaos progenitor. Yi Qinghan was heavily injured after killing one progenitor, and he was no exception. Dog, ancient heavenly emperor, let me pinch my fingers. You must have served Yen-yu first before serving the primordial yin-yang. The primordial yin-yang is split into 2. Aren't the 4 of you having fun? The divine bird transformed into a parrot and stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder, cursing continuously. Enough! The primordial yin-yang, Yen-yu, and the ancient heavenly emperor retorted angrily. They couldn't wait to kill Yi Qinghan and the divine bird on the spot. Roar! At this moment, the ancient heavenly emperor's sword pierced through the sky. It looked like he was going for Yi Qinghan, but in reality, the sword suddenly changed direction and went straight for the primordial yin-yang. Whoosh! Poochie, the speed of the sword was so fast that the primordial yin-yang couldn't react in time. The sword pierced through the primordial yin-yang's left chest and almost hit his heart. The progenitor realm's origin, causing yin and yang to be in chaos. Bang! The primordial yin-yang gave up on pursuing the Yen Emperor and slammed his palm on the ancient heavenly emperor's chest. The reversal was too fast. Yen-yu didn't react in time and roared, "Ancient heavenly emperor, what are you doing?" Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. The ancient heavenly emperor's chest caved in and he coughed out blood. He roared, "I've waited for so many years for this day. Don't you know? How did my father and mother die? Wasn't it all because of you? I betrayed my uncle because I wanted to kill, cough cough. I wanted to kill the primordial yin-yang. But now, I have to kill one more. Yi Qinghan must die, or I will die." The primordial yin-yang's vicious aura surged as he clutched his chest. His malicious gaze was even more frightening than Lu Feng and Chu Shijun's. In an instant, the remaining 5 progenitors were severely injured. They all had their own motives. No one could trust each other. The primordial yin-yang was burning with anger. He didn't even dare to trust Yen-yu anymore and fled. "Yi Qinghan, ancient heavenly emperor, Yen Emperor, we will meet again in the future. I understand the Qiu Tian region better than all of you. When we meet again, it will be the day all of you will be destroyed. You will be the dictator for eternity and will never allow others to touch you. Roar. Hua. Yi Qinghan and the Yan Emperor charged at the primordial yin-yang, not allowing him to escape. However, the ancient heavenly emperor seized the opportunity and pierced through the void towards Yi Qinghan. Yan Yu couldn't let the Yan Emperor live. He controlled the heaven-shrouding pagoda to suppress the Yan Emperor. Chapter 2950. The immemorial yin-yang was already severely injured. If it was attacked by the Yan Emperor and Yi Qinghan, it would be dead for sure. However, Yan Yu and the ancient heavenly monarch were busy dealing with the Yan Emperor and Yi Qinghan respectively, causing the immemorial yin-yang. Yi Qinghan was furious. He endured his injuries and slashed at the ancient heavenly emperor. Boom! Bang! Both experts were severely injured. Their swords clashed and blood splattered everywhere. Puff! Yi Qinghan and the ancient heavenly emperor were sent flying at the same time. However, Yan Yu gave up on pursuing Yan Emperor. Instead, he attacked Yi Qinghan with his palm. Bang! Yi Qinghan's broken body couldn't withstand the continuous attacks. His bones were bent from the impact and his body was sent flying far away like a kite with a broken string. Hua! Puff! Bang! Yi Qinghan was sent flying and flipped in the air. He slapped the void with his left hand. His body turned into nothingness and merged with the reverse 5 elements. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. On the other hand, Yan Yu used Yi Qinghan's attack to fly back. He grabbed the ancient heavenly emperor and fled into the depths of the seeking heaven region. Yan Emperor's killing intent soared and he chased after Yan Yu with his sword. Hua! Wang! Although the ancient heavenly emperor was severely injured, his spiritual will was still intact. He used his ancestors' spiritual will to block Yan Emperor's path. Hum! The Flame Emperor's sword shook off the divine sense domain, but everyone was gone. Even Yi Qinghan had escaped. Sovereign Yi was taken away by Yi Qinghan, Yan Yu escaped, and the immemorial yin-yang escaped. The Flame Emperor was furious. Boom! Yan Emperor pierced Qiu Tian with his sword and roared, "Do you think you can escape?" The Flame Emperor clenched his fists so hard that his bones cracked. Cold light flickered as he searched for traces of Yi Qinghan. Once he found Yi Qinghan and obtained Supreme Yi, there would be no need to fight anymore. However, Yi Qinghan was afraid that the Flame Emperor would snatch away Supreme Yi. Since he was heavily injured, he had no choice but to escape. Yi Qinghan was the second person to escape, so he was the furthest away. Furthermore, this place was not within the 5 elements, so his aura was restrained, and no one else could discover him. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan kept going deeper and deeper, escaping for hundreds of thousands of miles. He could no longer suppress the injuries on his body. Blood dyed his body red, and he was on the verge of collapsing. He could faint at any moment. This battle was too difficult. First, he fought 4 ancestor realm experts, then 2. Finally, he was hit by Yan Yu's palm. The only reason he was still alive was because he was too strong. Otherwise, if it was Yan Yu or the immemorial yin-yang, they would have died. Puff! Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of essence blood and knelt in the chaotic void, drowsy. The multicolored snake was heavily injured, and so was the god-devouring eagle. The little golden crow and the others were unconscious because of Yi Qinghan's near death. They could not help at all. Only Supreme Yi still had some strength. Whoosh! Supreme Yi turned into a new order and carried Yi Qinghan away. The further away they were, the safer they would be. It was too difficult to meet the Flame Emperor and the others in the huge Qiu Tian region. After escaping for several months, they actually found Lu Feng, Chu Shixian, and Lin Wujian. The 3 of them flew over. Lin Wuqian carried Yi Qinghan on his back, while Chu Shixian and Lu Feng pulled out their swords to defend their surroundings. They kept escaping. Supreme Yi looked around. The sky-seeking domain was too mysterious. It was different from the sky-seeking domain in his memory. Previously, he should have seen a planet with life and a star region, but there was nothing here. Other than chaos, there was only chaos. Everything was outside of the 5 elements. Other than being able to do something, a half-martial ancestor did not have much use here. What should we do? Lu Feng asked. They could not go back, and they could not leave. Everything was in darkness. What was the Qiu Tian region? Even Supreme Yi did not know much about it. The 3 half-ancestors and Supreme Yi looked at each other, completely at a loss. After searching for so long, they found a large meteorite floating in the Qiu Tian region. Lin Wuqian placed Yi Qinghan on the meteorite, and the 4 of them sat on it. You are the new order and came from here. You should know something about this place, right? Lin Wuqian looked at Supreme Yi and asked in a deep voice. Supreme Yi looked around and was a little puzzled. He scratched his head and muttered, I remember that there are planets with life here, but they are very rare. As for the others, I don't have any impression, that shouldn't be. The Qiu Tian region should be a region. According to your father, this should be the intersection of the universe. This might be the foundation of the universe. Why is it all chaos? Chu Shixian's eyes flashed coldly. He had Chu Jun's memories and had some understanding of the chaotic heavenly region. At this moment, he also fell into deep thought. Maybe this place is too big, and we haven't found the real center of the Qiu Tian region. Also, I remember something. Back then, Emperor Yuan once said that the decisive battle in the Qiu Tian region was here. Could it be related? Lu Feng held his sword and asked in a deep voice. After all, they were not the primordial yin-yang and knew too little about the Qiu Tian region. At this moment, Yi Qinghan woke up. His face was sallow, as if he was terminally ill. I've been here before. Yi Qinghan said with certainty. What? Supreme Martial Artist Yi and the others asked in unison. There should be a life planet here. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. He forced himself to sit up. He tried hard to think about this life planet, but he couldn't think of anything. Back then, the primordial yin-yang had said that Yi Qinghan and the alien star came from the Qiu Tian region. Yi Qinghan could easily become an ancestor once he entered the Qiu Tian region. This seemed to make sense. I seem to know how to break into the transcendent ancestor realm. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. How to break into the Dominator realm? The 4 were overjoyed and raised their heads to ask. Find that life planet, Yi Qinghan said with certainty. In the vast Qiu Tian region, finding a life planet through this path was probably not as easy as directly entering the Dominator realm. Hiss, who? Yi Qinghan frowned and took a few deep breaths. He realized that there wasn't even any air here. If it wasn't for the fact that he was above the Taigu Emperor, he would definitely suffocate here. Hua! Yi Qinghan opened the reverse 5 elements divine ring and took out dozens of pills. These pills didn't have much effect on him, but it was better than nothing. At least they could replenish his strength. The others' divine rings couldn't be opened here. Yi Qinghan looked at Supreme Martial Artist Yi and then at the other 3. He shook his head and said, You shouldn't have come. However, since you can't get out, don't think too much about it. Follow me first. Lin Wuqian and the others were half-martial ancestors. They had no choice. Gu Qingyu and the others wanted to save the people of Quang Manor. In addition, their cultivation wasn't high enough, so they could only escape with the people of Quang Manor. This wasn't considered a coward or a betrayal. If they abandoned Quang Manor's army to save Yi Qinghan, they really deserved to die. Hua! Yi Qinghan led the 4 of them in a certain direction, hoping to find a suitable place to recover from their injuries. The difficult environment wasn't just for Yi Qinghan alone. Immemorial Yin Yang and the others' injuries were even more difficult to recover. On the other hand, Yan Yu's injuries were the same as Yi Qinghan's. They were slowly recovering. After all, this was the reverse five elements land. They all cultivated the heaven-defying Tao. At this moment, Yan Emperor dragged his injured body and kept going deeper. The five ancestor realm experts didn't trust each other. Immemorial Yin Yang didn't dare to greet Yan Yu even if he found him. Chapter 2951. The vast Qiu Tian domain was a vast area. It was boundless and connected to other parallel universes. Although this place was connected to the various universes, it was also isolated from the other universes. Yi Qinghan led the three half-martial ancestors and Supreme Yi forward slowly. They were constantly vigilant. It was troublesome to encounter an ancestor now. It's really strange. Why is the ancestor's origin energy decreasing after leaving the border area? Yi Qinghan looked around in surprise. He wanted to find a ball of ancestor's origin energy to heal his injured body, but he could not find it. The depths were strange and variegated. Occasionally, he would find auroras that led to the top of the sky and the bottom of the netherworld. The slight distortion of space-time made one's liver and gallbladder crack. This place could take the life of a half-martial ancestor at any time. Even an ancestor had to be careful if he wanted to survive. Many spatial rifts were in a chaotic state. They did not seem dangerous, but once they entered, Yi Qinghan might not be able to escape even at his peak. There was no hope. Yi Qinghan was a little helpless. Up until now, not a single star had appeared. It was somewhat different from the Qiu Tian domain in his memory. Just like Supreme Yi, he felt that this place was very familiar, but it was different from his memory. In the distance, primordial Yin Yang was the first to escape. He fled further away. At this moment, he clutched his chest and finally found a ball of ancestors' origin energy. However, before he could take it, a group of people suddenly appeared from the land of Nirvana. An ancestor led the group, 3 half-martial ancestors, and 6 Taigu emperors. Their goal was also the ancestors' origin energy, but they did not find primordial Yin Yang, who had discovered them. Primordial Yin Yang's gaze was sinister. The injury on his chest had yet to be healed. This showed the ancient heavenly emperor's strength. The ancient heavenly emperor's sword carried a murderous aura. Primordial Yin Yang was able to dodge the fatal blow and was only seriously injured. This already showed that the person who ruled the ancient times was worthy of his reputation. At this moment, primordial Yin Yang wanted to seize the ancestor's origin energy to heal his injured body. However, he did not know who this group of people was. They had appeared here out of nowhere, so he did not dare to act rashly. Are they from a parallel universe? There are entrances to other universes nearby. Primordial Yin Yang held the Yin Yang ancestor realm and stared at this group of people coldly. Killing intent had already appeared in his eyes. He didn't care if the other party was from a parallel universe. He wasn't afraid of offending people. Anyone who blocked his path deserved to die. Whoosh, the immemorial Yin Yang drew his sword and hid, his gaze fixed on the ancestor realm expert. The other party clearly did not expect that there would be an ancestor realm expert nearby, and it was an extremely terrifying one at that, so he was unrestrained. Everyone, let's work harder. Once we obtain 3 more progenitor energy sources, our mission will be considered complete. That progenitor coldly said. I'm finally going to leave this damned place. It's been 10,000 years since I came, and it's even harder than the hundreds of thousands of years outside. Lord Ancestor, see, when we return this time, you must arrange some good jobs for us. Those people were speaking in the language of different universes. The immemorial Yin Yang sword could not understand them, nor did he want to understand them. He quietly approached the so-called ancestor worshipping, and his hand was already on the hilt of the Yin-Yang ancestral sword. The other party was not prepared for the appearance of an ancestor realm expert, because they had been in the Qiu-Tian region for many years. Previously, they had only encountered spatial cracks that took away some of their lives, but they had never encountered an ancestor realm expert. In their opinion, there was only them in the entire Qiu-Tian region, and no one else. The immemorial Yin-Yang circled around to the back of the other party, about 10 li away. His aura was restrained, and his Yin-Yang was calm, no different from nothingness. He approached step by step, and soon, he was within 10 li. Ancestor C still did not discover the immemorial Yin-Yang. Within 5 li Puchi. Boom! The immemorial Yin-Yang sword stabbed into the back of Ancestor C, but an ancestor realm expert was an ancestor realm expert. Amidst the lightning and thunder, a palm struck the back, hitting the head of the immemorial Yin-Yang. The sword pierced the heart, but the palm struck the forehead of the immemorial Yin-Yang. Puchi. The two flew back at the same time, blood splattering everywhere. The immemorial Yin-Yang sword's vision turned black, and he almost fainted, but the moment he was hit, the immemorial Yin-Yang sword's figure flashed and separated from his body, dodging the calamity. Ing! The immemorial Yin sword seized the air, as fast as lightning, directly slashing the throat of Ancestor C, and a palm struck the head, almost shattering his soul. Die! The immemorial Yin sword's figure flashed, and he pulled out his sword again, piercing the temple of Ancestor C from the side. The ancestor realm expert only had time to make one move before he was killed, and his broken soul was directly taken away by the immemorial Yin sword. Hiss hiss hiss, the half-ancestor and Taigu emperor sucked in a breath of cold air, and looked at the immemorial Yin sword with shock in their eyes. Who are you? A half-ancestor pulled out his sword and glared at the immemorial Yin sword, but the immemorial Yin sword did not understand his words at all. The immemorial Yin sword began to refine the soul of Ancestor C. The soul of an ancestor realm expert had a lot of vitality, a large amount of memories, speech, and genes. After a moment, the immemorial Yin sword understood the words of the half-ancestor. He laughed sinisterly and said coldly, "This ancestor is Yin-Yang, but you know too much, Hua. Xiu xiu xiu, shua shua shua." After the immemorial Yin sword refined the soul of Ancestor C, his sword moved like a dragon, and was as fast as lightning. The half-ancestor could not withstand it, let alone the Taigu emperor. In the blink of an eye, 3 half-ancestors and 6 Taigu emperors were killed. Hua! The immemorial Yin sword and the immemorial Yang sword merged, and with the vitality of Ancestor C's soul, he quickly recovered a portion of his vitality. His injuries had recovered by about 30 to 40%, which was enough to save his life. The immemorial Yin sword did not know how much trouble it would cause after killing this group of people. 10 broken corpses floated in the Qiu-Tian region. The immemorial Yin sword snatched their universe rings and found 17 or 18 ancestor realm energy sources inside. However, they were all very thin and were not enough to allow a half-ancestor to reach the ancestor realm. Only with the help of an ancestor realm expert could one reach the ancestor realm. The Qiu-Tian region's ancestor realm energy sources were all plundered by you. Damn it! The immemorial Yin sword said coldly. Yi Qinghan did not know that the immemorial Yin sword had encountered people from a parallel universe and killed them. At this moment, he was quietly moving forward with Lu Feng and the others. After searching for so many years, coupled with the new order of Supreme Yi Qinghan, they only found 2 very thin balls of ancestor realm energy sources. It was not enough to support any of the 3 of them to become an ancestor. Yi Qinghan could only refine it himself and recover most of his injuries. Phew, after Yi Qinghan refined the 2 balls of energy sources, he finally had the ability to protect himself. He finally exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Whoosh, whoosh. Whoosh, Yi Qinghan led the 3 ancestors and Supreme Yi through the air and began to take the initiative to search for other ancestors. The ancient heavenly emperor and the immemorial Yin sword were not dead, but these two were people he had to kill. You can't escape, Yi Qinghan said with certainty. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan seized the air and made up for it by reversing the 5 elements. It was as if he had merged into the Qiutian region. After traveling for several months, 10 floating corpses appeared in front of him. 3 half-ancestors and 1 ancestor realm. As for the Taigu Emperor, he did not care about him at all. Even the ancestor realm was killed. Yi Qinghan looked at Ancestor C in shock and realized that he had been attacked to death. The power of Yin and Yang wreaked havoc, and the others had more extreme Yin aura on them. It was the immemorial Yin sword. Looks like I'm heading in the right direction, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Chapter 2952. Yi Qinghan looked at the 10 corpses and looked up in all directions. He couldn't determine where the immemorial Yin Yang had gone. Let's leave this place first. Since there are people from other universes here, it means that there are other universes connected to this place. It's not safe. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment and chose to continue rushing deeper. Less than 3 days after Yi Qinghan left, an ancestor appeared here. Looking at the floating corpses and the universe rings that had been taken away, his eyes flashed coldly. Crack crack, you're courting death. This ancestor was obviously very powerful. He was almost invincible among those of the same level. He walked towards the depths of Qiu Tian domain in the same direction as Yi Qinghan. If Yi Qinghan slowed down, it would be easy for him to be caught. However, Yi Qinghan was afraid of being caught by the Flame Emperor and wanted to chase after the immemorial Yin Yang, so he was extremely fast. As a result, the ancestor behind him couldn't catch up even after several months. He wasn't afraid of the Flame Emperor, but he didn't want to become enemies with him. He also didn't blame the Flame Emperor for wanting to snatch supremacy Yi. If the Kuang Manor and his beloved died, and he could revive everyone by refining the 9-colored Brahman heart, he wouldn't hesitate to fight for the 9-colored Brahman heart. This was human nature. Senior Flame Emperor, I will definitely transcend. I will help you complete your obsession, but I will not give up on supremacy Yi. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly as he stepped firmly into the distance. Whoosh! After chasing for several months, Yi Qinghan still didn't find any traces of the immemorial Yin Yang. Instead, he found another ancestor's energy source. It was still thin and slightly weaker than the one supremacy Yi found before. It couldn't help Lin Wuxian reach the ancestor realm. Yi Qinghan hesitated for a moment before choosing to refine this energy source on the spot. The progenitor realm energy source was vast and powerful. It was not part of the 5 elements and was compatible with Yi Qinghan's physical body and source. Refining it was relatively easy. Energy flowed through his entire body. There were at least several hundred wounds on his body. His entire body was bestowed by an ancestor realm expert, so it was extremely difficult to heal them. At that moment, Lin Wuxian, Lu Feng, and Chu Shi Junxian drew their swords to defend their surroundings. They were afraid that an enemy would come. These 3 people had monstrous strength, but once an ancestor realm expert appeared, they would not be able to resist for a moment. At most, they would be able to awaken Yi Qinghan. The 3 sharp swords flew into the air and looked into the distance. For the first 2 days, it was completely quiet. There wasn't even a ripple of energy. However, on the 3rd day, a vast and mighty energy surged over. That ancestor realm expert from the parallel universe had killed his way over. Before he arrived, the ancestor realm energy had already arrived. Primordial Yin Yang had left relatively early, so this ancestor realm expert could not sense his aura. However, Yi Qinghan and the others had only left for a few days. In addition, Lin Wuxian and the others were half-ancestors. Their auras were very obvious, so he had tracked them down. In just 3 days, Yi Qinghan had already refined 90% of the energy source. At that moment, more than 90% of his body's surface and internal order had been restored. The remaining was not a big deal. Hua! Yi Qinghan immediately stood up. With a wave of his hand, he sent the three people into the wild martial great world. However, he left Sovereign Yi on his shoulder. He did not know how much trouble this action had caused him. Boom! Wang, with a flip of his hand, Yi Qinghan's war blade appeared in his right hand. It had the appearance of a Tangu blade. The blade's edge had already been opened, and it was extremely swift and fierce. Boom! The auras of two progenitors clashed at the peak of the sky. It could be clearly sensed from thousands of miles away. Hua! Swoosh swoosh. The opposing progenitor's killing intent was dense. He appeared in front of Yi Qinghan and asked in a cold voice, "Were you the one who killed Ancestor C and the others?" In the two universes, there was a language barrier. Yi Qinghan did not know what the other party was talking about. However, he could tell that the other party did not come with good intentions. Therefore, he remained silent. However, the aura of his war blade burst forth to defend against this person. That progenitor stared at Yi Qinghan. Finally, he stared at Sovereign Yi. The expression in his eyes changed from doubt to shock, and then to crazed greed. At this time, it was no longer important whether Yi Qinghan had killed Ancestor C or not. What was important was that the other party recognized the source energy of the progenitor realm. It was obvious that this progenitor had seen the source energy of a sovereign realm before. Therefore, he quickly confirmed Sovereign Ye's identity. Sovereign Ye's hair stood on end when he was stared at by this person. He said in horror, "This old fellow recognized my identity." So powerful, Yi Qinghan could not understand the words of this progenitor, but he could understand the look in his eyes. Therefore, killing intent appeared in his eyes. He wanted to kill him to silence him. In a place without rules, there was no need to worry about anything. "I'm Emperor Mausoleum. Which universe are you from?" The progenitor did not immediately attack. Instead, he asked in a deep voice, as if he was afraid of provoking someone he could not afford to provoke. Yi Qinghan did not understand what the other party was saying at all. He held his blade horizontally in front of his chest. The Emperor Mausoleum progenitor frowned and muttered to himself in confusion, could it be an uncivilized barbarian universe? He doesn't even know the universal language. Thinking of this, the Emperor Mausoleum progenitor was wild with joy. If it was a progenitor from an uncivilized barbarian universe, then there was no need to worry. He could just kill him. Whoosh! The Emperor Mausoleum progenitor waved his hand and his aura rose. The sword in his sleeve was unsheathed, and the ancestral might was vast and mighty. The key was that the material of his ancestral sword was different from the material of the ancient immortal world. It seemed to be of a higher grade. Boom! Yi Qinghan's qi and blood surged. The domineering might attacked the ancestral might. Although the Tangu blade was derived from qi, it was even sharper. Buzz! The desolate might wreaked havoc. Yi Qinghan's body turned into nothingness and stood outside the five elements in a defensive posture. His eyes pierced through the void and stared at the Emperor Mausoleum progenitor. However, he looked around from the corner of his eyes, afraid that he would encounter the immemorial Yin Yang, the ancient heavenly emperor, and the others. The Emperor Mausoleum progenitor was experienced and knowledgeable. He saw through Yi Qinghan's identity at a glance and could not help but say to himself in surprise, outside the five elements. Isn't it impossible to cultivate there? Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan held the hilt of his blade with both hands and slashed at the Emperor Mausoleum progenitor. His blade was like a rainbow, cutting through the void. However, the progenitor did not seem to have any effect on the space here. Hum! Boom boom boom! Bang bang bang! The Emperor Mausoleum progenitor's killing intent was even thicker. His sword aura was comparable to the Flame Emperor's. His aura was like a rainbow as he slashed out more than 100 times. Every slash was soul-stealing and could kill people from 1,000 miles away. Boom boom boom. Bang, both sides were incomparably powerful. After more than 100 moves, the two separated. Their eyes were filled with shock. Clearly, they did not expect the other party to be so powerful. The Emperor Mausoleum progenitor probably did not lose to the Flame Emperor or Yi Qinghan. We can't let him leave. Otherwise, we'll be finished, Supreme Master Yi said in shock. Now that the Dominator's origin had been recognized, not only the progenitor would fight for it, but even the Dominators would fight for it. This was a delicious cake. If Yi Qinghan did not refine it, it would be a hot cake that could take his life at any time. Yi Qinghan's killing intent had condensed into a substance. He could not be allowed to leave. Otherwise, his future enemies would not only be the immemorial Yin Yang, Yen Yu, and the ancient Heavenly Emperor, but also the Universe Masters at the Dominator realm. Whoosh, Yi Qinghan waved his hand and wiped the Tangu blade. With a stroke of his foot, he became one with the blade. The might of the progenitor realm rushed to the top of the sky, and the domineering aura crushed everything. Chapter 2953. If you really think that my understanding of the universe is wrong, you can leave as much as you want. But no matter what, I was once a member of the Crazy Manor, so even if I leave, there is no need for you to deliberately give a bad review and screenshot it for me. Even if you really give a bad review, that's fine too. I won't say anything, but I will apologize for disappointing everyone. From today onwards, I will follow my own train of thought and will not change for anyone. Those who choose to leave do not cause trouble in the book review section. Thank you. Now, everyone who is scolding me has a very important factor, which is that Ancestor Realm experts are everywhere, and Dominator Realm experts are everywhere. How many Ancestor Realm experts are there in the ancient immortal world? 6, and so far, 2 have appeared in other universes, but not a single Dominator Realm expert. Of course, I can scold, and I believe that everyone can. A person who can remain calm will not scold when there is no result, right? Yi Qinghan gripped the hilt of his saber with both hands and stared at the mausoleum in front of him. The two of them did not understand each other at all, but one wanted to seize the Dominator Realm's source, and the other wanted to protect it. There was no need for them to understand anything else. Boom! Yi Qinghan and Di Ling launched a four-way battle. There was no hatred, only greed. The source of the Ancestor Realm was gone, and even if there was, it was in a place that could not be found. Father Divine Bird found the last one, and even if there was a Dominator Realm expert, they would also participate in the fight. Yi Qinghan bringing Sovereign Yi Qinghan with him meant that he was carrying a ticking time bomb that could blow him to pieces at any time. However, Sovereign Yi was not the source of the Ancestor Realm in front of Yi Qinghan, but a little brother with flesh and blood. Whoosh! The blade and sword collided. The might of the Ancestor Realm was vast and mighty, spreading out for countless miles. Heavenly fire burned the sky. People outside of the 5 elements were also in imminent danger in Qiu Tian region, and could be in danger at any time. The speed of the two of them surpassed the limit. They were both top-notch existences in their respective universes. Ear-piercing clashing sounds rang out incessantly. This battle had lasted for more than 10 days, and they were actually evenly matched. It had to be said that this person was also a supreme being of the Ancestor Realm. Bang, boom, Yi Qinghan and Di Ling kicked each other. Spatial fluctuations appeared in the stable-seeking heaven domain. The surrounding energy exploded and they were pushed back thousands of miles. Crack crack crack. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed fiercely. He stomped on the ground and slashed out with his saber again. Di Ling lost control of his body while retreating. He could not raise his sword in time and his wrist was unstable. The ancestral sword was sent flying. Tangu's saber cut open his ancestral robe and blood splattered everywhere. Di Ling was injured, his bones covered in blood. The 5 elements reversal technique tore apart the order of his flesh, unable to recover within a short period of time. If you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Not everyone can be greedy. Do you think you are the Yen Emperor? Yi Qinghan swung his saber and slashed out hundreds of times in an instant, shattering Di Ling's bracelet. Cough cough, Di Ling coughed out blood. His eyes were filled with shock. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to be so strong. His intention to escape gradually rose. Hua! Bang! Di Ling wanted to retreat. He waved his hand and retrieved his ancestral sword. He retreated while fighting. Yi Qinghan struck him consecutively, causing dozens of wounds to appear on his arms and abdomen. Boom! Yi Qinghan had the upper hand. He kicked Di Ling's chest, causing his body to change shape. Pooh! Di Ling did not expect to provoke a terrifying monster. He did not manage to obtain the source of the ancestor realm. Instead, he was going to lose his life here. Pu Chi! Boom! Yi Qinghan's saber pierced through Di Ling's heart. His leg struck Di Ling's abdomen and his elbows smashed towards Di Ling's head. He completed 3 attacks in an instant. Di Ling screamed. His vision turned black and he almost died. The order in his body was shattered. Bang bang bang. Yi Qinghan waved his iron fists. His gaze was fierce as he punched Di Ling's ancestor realm. Di Ling's soul was smashed unconscious and exhausted. Hua! Yi Qinghan forcefully seized Di Ling's soul and completely suppressed it. He sat cross-legged on the ground and began to refine Di Ling's soul. The universal language appeared in Di Ling's sea of consciousness. A large amount of memories were seized and attacked Yi Qinghan's soul. Fortunately, his soul was already in the ancestor realm. Otherwise, these memories would have caused the Taigu Emperor's soul to explode. Sure enough, this person was already very familiar with Qiu Tian domain. Qiu Tian domain, the original universe, is the most primitive universe. The original universe is constantly splitting into secondary universes, which are similar to the ancient immortal world. However, although the ancient immortal world is secondary to the other secondary universes, it is considered an undeveloped wild universe. The universe where Di Ling's mausoleum is in has already developed. It has a better understanding of Qiu Tian domain. The entire primal universe is outside of the 5 elements. It does not have the Dharma logos of order, but its foundation does have the Dharma logos of order. It is just that other than the beyond ancestor realm, which is the ruler realm, no one can understand this primal universe. If we are talking about planes, this Qiu Tian domain is the highest plane. It is the most primitive universe. The other so-called secondary universes can be classified as secondary planes. Within a secondary plane, there are even more secondary planes. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He now had a certain understanding of Qiu Tian domain. There is always someone better. Beyond heaven is Qiu Tian domain, which is the original universe. Outside of heaven is Qiu Tian domain and the original universe. Outside of heaven is the sovereign. They can rule everything. However, they can't rule the original universe. The original universe has no master and no order. Hiss, Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and constantly searched Di Ling's memories. Finally, he found information about the planet with life in Qiu Tian domain. That planet with life belongs to people outside of the 5 elements. I came from there. Over there, ancestor realm experts can't use any order power. That place is a completely detached existence. However, there, you can't cultivate there. Yi Qinghan seemed to recall something and his heart began to beat faster. I understand now. Father Divine Bird had once been to Qiu Tian domain and obtained the new order by chance. He was the one who brought me out of that transcendent star and let me cultivate so that I could help him break out of his predicament. Yi Qinghan's mouth opened slightly. I came from that place. It's called, ha 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 ha, Yi Qinghan laughed. This was the essence of Qiu Tian domain. No one knew if sovereign realm experts existed in the original universe or secondary universe. However, everyone went crazy for it. There were no saints in this world. Neither Yan Emperor nor Yi Qinghan himself. Driven by benefits, there would be motivation to move forward. Regret was profit. Therefore, regret was driving him forward. Resurrecting those who didn't deserve to die and erasing all regrets was Yan Emperor's goal and also Yi Qinghan's goal. After refining Di Ling's soul, Yi Qinghan obtained a lot of useful information. For example, how many secondary universes there were, how big Qiu Tian domain was, the specific location of that planet with life, and how to get there. Yi Qinghan exhaled the turbid air and stepped into the distance. The long path to Qiu Tian domain allowed him to once again encounter a Taigu emperor. This time, he discovered a problem. This Taigu emperor had something similar to a small stick in his mouth. It contained a lot of spiritual energy in usable air that could be used to replace the turbid air in his body. Yi Qinghan took out the small stick from the Taigu emperor's mouth and studied it. The other party didn't even dare to resist. He really didn't understand why this ancestor realm expert was so interested in something that could be used in secondary universes and was so worthless. After Yi Qinghan thoroughly understood the mysteries of this little stick, he casually returned it to the other party. In fact, this little stick was like an oxygen tank used by divers. However, the space inside this little stick was bigger and it could store more spiritual energy. That Taigu emperor hurriedly fled. Yi Qinghan watched the place leave and smiled. Sooner or later, he would let the people of Kuang Fu enter Qiu Tian domain and let them experience what kind of existence Qiu Tian domain was. He would let everyone experience it. Chapter 2954. Yi Qinghan killed this Emperor Tomb progenitor and understood the mysteries of the Taigu Emperor's survival here. He then looked into the depths of Qiu Tian domain, where there was a life planet outside of the five elements. The original Gaia planet was known to all the top masters in the secondary universe. The universal name of this planet was the original Gaia planet, also known as the third planet. Gaia was the third planet from the Sun star, as it was the closest planet to the Sun star. Gaia was very small, so small that if it was placed in a secondary universe, even a Taigu emperor could destroy it with a slap. However, once it entered Gaia, even an progenitor would be immortal. They would not be able to display the power of an progenitor here. Yi Qinghan stepped into the depths, moving swiftly with Sovereign Yi. He wanted to find the progenitor's origin to help Lin Wuxian and the others enter the progenitor realm. However, the deeper they went, the more intense the activities of the other secondary universes became. Many people were looking for progenitor's energy, like a group of experts searching for treasure. If they found progenitor's origin, they would make a fortune. Therefore, countless people had died here, causing the progenitor's origin energy to be like a scarce substance. Even the thinnest energy source cluster was gone. Yi Qinghan was unwilling to participate in these secondary universes' affairs. He only had two goals: kill his enemy, then break through to the ruler realm and complete his regrets. Sovereign Yi did not dare to say anything this time. He turned into his original form and hid in Yi Qinghan's arms, his eyes darting around. The people of the other secondary universes did not seem to like to cause trouble, especially when they encountered an existence like Yi Qinghan. They would not offend Yi Qinghan if they could. Even when Yi Qinghan barged into their territory, they just endured it and let it go. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan was just passing by and did not clash with them. Yi Qinghan sped all the way, heading straight for the third planet, Gaia. His destination was clear, and he would not be disturbed by others. Along the way, Yi Qinghan encountered many half-progenitors. There were very few progenitors. As for sovereigns, they were like the legendary billionaires. Their social circle was not here either. Ordinary people had different interactions, and people of different levels had different social circles. Not to mention the existence of sovereign realm experts. Even if they existed, sovereign realm experts would only wander around the circle of sovereign realm experts. Ancestor realm experts might be extremely high-level experts to others, but to sovereign realm experts, they were just little beggars. Even if there was something fun to play with, they wouldn't bring ancestor realm experts to play. Yi Qinghan kept a low profile and kept his head down. Countless light years away, the third planet, the original planet Gaia, was a different civilization, also known as the reverse civilization. They did not cultivate, but their life was no worse than that of the secondary universe. They were rich and colorful. Here, more than 50% of the people felt that this was the only civilization in the entire universe. There were also some people who felt that they were not the only civilization in the universe. However, at their level, they were unable to contact other civilizations. Even if there were civilizations from the secondary universe who came here, they would not talk to them about the secondary universe. This was because the weakest person who came here was the Taigu Emperor. When such a person came to planet Gaia, he had his own special social circle and excluded the natives of planet Gaia. People of different levels had different social circles, but there were still people who would talk to the natives about the secondary universe. This led to the different races on planet Gaia having different myths and legends. However, they were only limited to myths and legends, and no one had seen with their own eyes where these special people existed. Today, the Gaia civilization had developed for an unknown number of years. Many civilizations had fallen, disappeared, and been reborn, forming a more humanized civilization that called itself the fifth-dimensional civilization. The fifth-dimensional civilization was an era that relied on theoretical reasoning to create machines and prove the existence of the fifth dimension. Planet Gaia was originally a primitive mother planet, but in the eyes of the secondary universe, it was a garbage dump. It had no resources, and it could not display the abilities it should have. Even progenitor realm experts were trash, so it had become a transfer point. Planet Gaia, the Kunlun secondary saint realm, was the place where the elites of the secondary universe rested and transited in the original universe. The Kunlun secondary saint realm was a different space that had been opened. It was not small, but no one knew who had opened it. Here, everyone was in a state of peace. People from different secondary universes were trading here peacefully. No one messed around, because there were too few abilities that could be controlled here. Even progenitors could not display much of their strength. On the contrary, masters of physical strength and close combat had the upper hand. Primordial Yin-Yang was the first to sneak into the Kunlun secondary saint realm. Many people were trading things that existed in the original universe. They were all using the inverse 5 elements ring, which could open up internal spaces in the original universe. At this moment, a group of people was surrounding an expert. This person was also someone who cultivated the inverse Tao and was outside of the 5 elements. He looked to be in his 40s, a little older than Yi Qinghan. He was mature and steady, and even though he was surrounded by many experts, he was neither happy nor sad. Tao Ancestor Star Defying, do you think there really is a ruler in this world? A very young-looking expert asked respectfully. Yes, we're all very curious. Everyone is searching for the ruler's energy origin, but it seems that no one has truly reached that realm. Everyone was discussing animatedly and asking this Tao Ancestor who was outside of the 5 elements. Tao Ancestor Star Defying was the middle-aged man who was about 40 years old. At this moment, he had the air of a transcendent being. He was holding a feather fan and gently waving it. There seemed to be some doubt in his eyes. There should be. Also, the profound mysteries are in this original universe. However, so many experts from different universes have gathered here, but none of them have been able to find this so-called ruler's energy origin. Perhaps the ruler realm shouldn't even exist, Tao Ancestor Star Defying said calmly. Tao Ancestor Star Defying, does this ruler's energy origin really exist, another middle-aged man asked curiously. Tao Ancestor Star-Defying nodded with certainty. It does exist. I've seen it before, but my cultivation wasn't enough at the time and I was unable to take it. I just let it disappear before my eyes. Hiss, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They didn't think that someone had actually seen the ruler's energy origin. The primordial yin-yang sinister eyes stared at Tao Ancestor Star-Defying. This person was even more powerful than Yi Qinghan, mainly because he had been cultivating for much longer than Yi Qinghan. In addition, he was also someone who was in the inverse 5 elements ring. Most likely, his essence also belonged to the original universe. Why would the ruler's energy appear next to those who are in the inverse 5 elements ring? Is there a reason for this? The primordial yin-yang murmured to himself. He didn't tell these people that Yi Qinghan had the ruler's energy in his body. If everyone knew, Yi Qinghan would definitely die, but the ruler's energy definitely wouldn't be his. This wasn't the result that the primordial yin-yang wanted. He wanted to kill Yi Qinghan and then obtain the ruler's energy origin. This was what he wanted. Chapter 2955. Different circles would lead to different situations. This was the so-called birds of a feather flock together. Beggars knew beggars, and the circle of pinnacle masters would always be the circle of pinnacle masters. Looking further, one would see more. Although Kunlun's secondary saint realm couldn't cultivate, it was a gathering of pinnacle masters from various secondary universes, from the ancestor realm to the Taigu emperor realm. Any one of them was a pinnacle existence. Yi Qinghan found Gaia with the help of Di Ling's soul, but he didn't go directly to Kunlun's secondary saint realm. Instead, he went to the secular world of dragon-seeking nation. He was dressed in bloody clothes and was unarmed. He looked no different from a mortal. Yi Qinghan couldn't go anywhere, but his temperament was different from the universe. Yi Qinghan held a gemstone in his hand. This kind of thing was trash in the secondary universe, but on Gaia, it was priceless. He traded the gemstone for money in the secular world. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. He changed into a very ordinary black windbreaker and changed out of all the bloody clothes on him. He looked like a new person. Yi Qinghan found a steel-making factory and paid for a special mask to be made. It was the Dragon Hawk entanglement. A few days later, Yi Qinghan left the secular world with the mask and appeared in Kunlun's secondary universe. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stepped into Kunlun's secondary saint realm. There was no one guarding or controlling this place. It was a group of people from the secondary universe. The natives of the original universe couldn't enter. Whoosh! A gentle breeze blew. It was like a fairyland. There was no fighting here, only seeking knowledge. Yi Qinghan walked and looked at the experts from the secondary universe who gathered in the secondary saint realm all year round. He wanted to find some clues, but he was blind and didn't understand much. Yi Qinghan had entered his body and didn't dare to stay outside. Otherwise, if people found out that he was the energy source of the legendary Dominator realm, even 10 Yi Qinghans wouldn't be enough to beat him up. Everyone was exchanging resources, discussing the path, and searching for a way. Some people were also visiting the strong, hoping to get some advice. The huge secondary saint realm was filled with palaces. Many people had already taken root here and had given birth to their children. Next month, there will be a new level of the Cosmos Conference. There will be 3 ancestor realm paragons who will personally come to resolve our doubts and participate in the trade. I hope we can obtain some useful information so that we can broaden our horizons. That's right. It's true that the further you go, the higher you see, and the smaller you see yourself. There will be a peak. Those 3 peak progenitors are peak progenitors, and Tao Ancestor Star-Defiance is one of them. He's even seen the quintessence of a hegemon. Ahahaha, he has the highest chance of becoming a hegemon. While everyone was discussing, Yi Qinghan continued walking. Every step he took brought him more news. Whoosh! Swish! Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed like lightning. He walked through the crowd like a crane among chickens, but he did not participate in the discussion. He was looking for someone. Primordial Yin Yang, Yen Yu, and the ancient celestial emperor. These three people had to be killed. They could not be left alive. Whether there was hatred or not, the three of them had to die. Otherwise, news of Supreme Yi would be exposed sooner or later. After searching for 10 days, he finally found an acquaintance, Primordial Yin Yang. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and narrowed his eyes as he looked at Primordial Yin Yang in the distance. He was actually sitting with Tao Ancestor Star Defiance. Although he was in a slightly lower position, he was chatting happily with Tao Ancestor Star Defiance. Tao Ancestor Star Defiance was one of the three peak powerhouses of the secondary universe. Di Ling knew about it, and Yi Qinghan naturally knew about it as well. Tao Ancestor Star Defiance. This person also cultivates the defying 5 elements. He should also be from Gaia planet. What a coincidence. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. Tao Ancestor Star Defiance prestige was very high. If he killed Primordial Yin Yang here, Primordial Yin Yang would definitely expose Supreme Ye's identity. At that time, they would all attack him. Not only would he not be able to take revenge or silence them, but he would also die here. Hiss, Yi Qinghan took a few deep breaths and suppressed the killing intent in his eyes. Even if Primordial Yin Yang saw him now, he might not know that this was Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan retreated and found an inn. This place was like an ordinary planet, and the inn was very old. He chose the tallest pavilion and stood at the window of the roof, overlooking everything within a few kilometers. Tap, 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 Yi Qinghan knocked on the window. He did not release the 3 half-martial ancestors from the wild martial great world. If they came out, they would only expose his identity. The vast masses of living beings begin as insignificant and return to being ordinary. Martial ancestors are just ordinary people here. At most, they are slightly stronger than ordinary people. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. He had learned a bit about the secular world. If the Kunlun secondary saint realm was exposed, it was not impossible for the secular world to destroy them. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan looked at the secondary saint realm. His eyes seemed to be able to see the secular world through the secondary saint realm. Gaia planet should be the foundation to transcend the martial ancestor realm. If one wanted to transcend, they had to be here. Otherwise, all the martial ancestors and half-martial ancestors of the secondary universe would not have come here. Another martial ancestor realm appeared in the secondary saint realm. He had more than 10 Taigu Emperor realm cultivators and 5 half-martial ancestors with him. These people were here to protect him. In this place, the more people there were, the more power there was. Martial ancestors did not have any advantage. The date of the so-called Secondary Universe Convention was getting closer and closer. Finally, when the convention was about to start, the 5 martial ancestors of the ancient immortal world had all arrived. Yen Emperor, Yen Yu, Ancient Heavenly Emperor, Primordial Yin Yang, and Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan watched as Yen Yu appeared beside Primordial Yin Yang with Ancient Heavenly Emperor. Primordial Yin Yang stared at Ancient Heavenly Emperor with a malicious expression. If Ancient Heavenly Emperor was not held back by Yen Yu, he would definitely fight Primordial Yin Yang to the death. Fellow Taoists, although there are no rules in the secondary saint realm, there is an unwritten rule. No one is allowed to fight here. I hope you will abide by it. Otherwise, you will be besieged, Tao Ancestor Star Defying reminded calmly. Primordial Yin Yang's lips curled into a murderous smile as he said coldly, Ancient Heavenly Emperor, I will settle the score with you after we leave the secondary saint realm. Fellow Taoist Yen Yu will not be able to protect you. Ancient Heavenly Emperor replied coldly, Yin Yang, this ancestor is not afraid of you. If you have the guts, come with me now. I will let you see what the martial ancestor realm is. The confrontation between the two martial ancestors made Tao Ancestor start defying curious. Martial ancestors actually had such a deep grudge against each other. Moreover, they were from the same secondary universe. Yen Yu, who was sandwiched in the middle, smiled bitterly and said, "Brother Yin Yang, give me face and let this matter go. Heavenly Emperor, you are not allowed to fight again. Don't forget that our enemies are Yen Emperor and Yi Qing Han. Let it go." Primordial Yin Yang and Ancient Heavenly Emperor sneered. How could they let this matter go so easily? Let it go, Brother Yen Yu. You don't have to ask about this matter. As for Yi Qing Han and Yen Emperor, I have a way to kill them as long as they dare to appear in the secondary saint realm, Primordial Yin Yang said coldly. At this moment, Yi Qing Han was standing on the eastern peak, looking down at this group of people. Yen Emperor was standing on the western peak. He wanted to draw his sword several times, but he resisted. Chapter 2956. To the other secondary universes, the ancient immortal world was a wild and undeveloped universe. This was because there had never been any progenitor realm experts, and the secondary universes with progenitor realm experts weren't interested in such a wild and undeveloped secondary universe. This time, 5 progenitor realm experts had appeared, which surprised Tao Ancestor star-defying. More importantly, these 5 progenitor realm experts seemed to have a strong hatred for each other. Everyone, what's there to be worried about after cultivating to this realm? What everyone wants to know now is the ruler realm. Who can enter the ruler realm will solve all your doubts, right? Tao Ancestor star-defying said indifferently, as if he wanted to be a peacemaker. Primordial Yin Yang gave Tao Ancestor star-defying enough face and bowed slightly. Tao Ancestor, you don't understand the grudges between us. Let's not talk about Flame Emperor and Yi Qing Han. I allowed this ancient heavenly emperor to reach the progenitor realm and even provided him with some help. However, this kid wasn't grateful and actually launched a sneak attack on me when we were fighting, almost killing me. How can I tolerate such an unfilial son? The ancient heavenly emperor retorted disdainfully, the hatred of killing one's parents is irreconcilable. I became an ancestor because of my grandfather's help and my own hard work. What does it have to do with you? Don't flatter yourself. Since the secondary saint realm doesn't allow us to fight, let's wait until we're out of the secondary saint realm. Each of them had their own reasons as they opposed each other. The 3 of them didn't know that Yi Qing Han was watching from afar. Flame Emperor's killing intent was restrained and a cold light flashed. He was also waiting for an opportunity. He didn't care about the unwritten rules of the secondary saint realm. The rules were set by the strong and enforced by the weak. Flame Emperor was no weakling. Tao Ancestor star-defying glanced at Flame Emperor from the corner of his eye. No matter how restrained Flame Emperor's killing intent was, it couldn't hide his strength. When Tao Ancestor star-defying saw the light in Flame Emperor's eyes, his heart couldn't help but sink. Flame Emperor's aura and gaze showed that he didn't care about anyone. He saw Flame Emperor's killing intent and disdain. It was a provocation that the strong weren't willing to endure. Tao Ancestor star-defying smiled but didn't say anything. He turned and left. Primeval Yin Yang didn't hesitate and immediately followed him. Primeval Yin Yang was very happy to befriend one of the 3 autarchs. Moreover, Tao Ancestor Starbreaker had many followers, and some of them weren't even from his secondary universe. Tao Ancestor Star Defiance left with his followers in a mighty and awe-inspiring manner. With so many demi-progenitors and progenitors escorting him, even if he didn't have any power left, he still wouldn't be someone that Yi Qing Han and the others could assassinate. Several days later, the remaining 2 venerable ancestor perfection experts also appeared. Their auras were even more powerful, and they brought hundreds of followers with them. The moment they appeared, they attracted the attention of the crowd, and they greeted them respectfully. Tomorrow was the Secondary Universe Conference. Now, almost everyone was in groups of 3 to 5. It was rare to see mavericks like Yi Qinghan and the Flame Emperor. Yi Qinghan did not contact Flame Emperor as he was still in a state of rage. Even he could not guarantee that he would be able to control his temper and explain himself if Flame Emperor attacked him. The next day, everyone gathered. There were at least 3 to 4,000 experts from different secondary universes gathered. The Taigu Emperor, demi-progenitors, and progenitors were all present. Yi Qinghan blended into the crowd, but his eyes were fixed on immemorial Yin Yang and the others in the distance. They gathered beside Tao Ancestor Star Defiance and soon merged with the others. They chatted happily and did not have a chance to attack at all. Flame Emperor held the human sovereign sword and quietly approached Yan Yu. The one he wanted to kill the most was not immemorial Yin Yang, but Yan Yu, the founder of the Yan clan who had abandoned his people. Such betrayal was unbearable. Could it be that he wants to attack here? Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and stared at Flame Emperor. He felt that it was unwise to attack here. In this place, the difference between a Taigu Emperor and a demi-progenitor or progenitor was not big. They were equivalent to martial arts experts, each with their own merits. Yi Qinghan did not like to cause trouble. It would be best if he could kill 3 people quietly. Unfortunately, what else did Flame Emperor have to tie him down? The 9-colored Brahma heart was dead. His people were dead. He no longer had anything to tie him down. There was only an hour left before the Secondary Universe Convention began. Everyone was already seated, waiting for the exchange and Tao discussion. They also wanted to get answers from Tao Ancestor Star Defiance and the other 2 Supremes. Yan Yu sat outside Tao Ancestor Star Defiance, side by side with the ancient Heavenly Emperor. There were many experts around them. Flame Emperor appeared behind Yan Yu, unsheathing the human sovereign sword. Hua! The experts sitting below shouted and pointed at Flame Emperor angrily, as if blaming him for ruining the Secondary Universe Convention. Yan Yu subconsciously turned around and looked at Flame Emperor in front of him. He immediately said, "Son, don't be rash." Puchi! Puchi! Flame Emperor held Yan Yu's neck and stabbed him more than 10 times. He said hoarsely, "I've never been rash. I've thought about every step carefully. I'm not like you. For the sake of the progenitor realm, you even abandoned your own son and your people. I'll send you to see them and repent." Whoosh! Whoosh! Flame Emperor drew his sword and slit Yan Yu's neck. Ancestral blood splattered all over his body. In an instant, the entire secondary sacred realm fell into silence. How many years had it been since someone had killed someone here? The ancient Heavenly Emperor held his sword tightly. He didn't stop Flame Emperor from attacking, but he also stared at him. "Young man, there's always a higher mountain. By attacking here, you're disregarding the rules set by all the experts of the secondary universe. You're also disregarding this ancestor." Tao Ancestor Star Defiance stood up and stared at Flame Emperor. He asked coldly, "Are you Flame Emperor or Yi Qinghan?" The one who had a grudge against Yan Yu was either Yi Qinghan or Flame Emperor. Tao Ancestor Star Defiance already knew about it yesterday. He was very angry at this moment, and killing intent flashed across his eyes. Flame Emperor pushed Yan Yu down, and his corpse fell straight to the ground. It was really easy to kill a progenitor here. Hiss! Flame Emperor wiped his human sovereign sword with his battle robe and said coldly, "The rules are only for the weak. I'm dealing with a personal matter. You'd better not stop me." Impudent! Another white-haired old man slammed his palm on the table, his aura bursting out. Even if he was a martial arts expert, he was still a top-notch expert. He was a Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor, one of the 3 Venerate progenitor realm experts with high prestige. How could he not be angry when he saw the young Flame Emperor challenging the rules of the entire secondary universe? Flame Emperor replied coldly, "My obsession has been extinguished. Everything else is really not important. If you want to die, I can make all of you stay. Hiss. Everyone gasped and glared at Flame Emperor. This person was too overbearing and barbaric. He actually didn't put anyone in the secondary universe in his eyes. Roar. Whoosh. In an instant, at least a dozen experts unsheathed their swords. They couldn't fly, and they didn't have any ancestral power. They could only rely on their sword moves. However, in terms of sword Dao, Flame Emperor was also the best. Swoosh. Poochie. Flame Emperor stabbed out more than a dozen times in an instant. Every strike was fatal. Those who attacked first were all beheaded. They didn't give others a chance to resist. Strong enough. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. Bang. Crack. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and broke the neck of a sword-drawing expert beside him, snatching the sword from his hand. Chapter 2957. Crack. Yi Qinghan was even faster. He snapped the neck of an expert and snatched his sword. Then, he walked out slowly as he looked at the thousands of experts. His eyes under the dragon eagle mask were sinister and cruel, which was very different from his original temperament. At this moment, even the ancient heavenly emperor and primordial yin yang couldn't tell if he was Yi Qinghan or not. Perhaps he was either Lu Feng or Chu Shijun. Rules are always meant to be broken. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. It was completely different from before. Yi Qinghan's sword trembled. His sword chi was like a rainbow, and he had the demeanor of a sword master. Yi Qinghan. Flame Emperor. Dao Ancestor Star-defying eyes flashed coldly as he looked at Yi Qinghan and Flame Emperor with murderous intent. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Splat. Yi Qinghan didn't answer. Instead, he slashed his way toward the ancient heavenly emperor like he was cutting vegetables. Hum. The Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestor unsheathed his sword. Although he couldn't use the Ancestor realm, his martial path had already reached the Grandmaster realm. In the secular world, he was also one of the top experts. You have killed too many people. The ancient immortal world actually called you ancestors. Unforgivable. Whoosh. Whoosh. The Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestor's sword aura broke through the order and turned into an unstoppable river. Boom. Bang. Crack 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 crack. Flame Emperor stopped his attack and opened a path for Yi Qinghan. He obviously didn't want to kill the ancient heavenly emperor personally, so he wanted to borrow Yi Qinghan's hand. Boom. Yi Qinghan killed more than 10 experts in a row. He also had more than 10 sword wounds on his body, but he still managed to get close to the ancient heavenly emperor. The ancient heavenly emperor's eyes flashed coldly. His spirit consciousness was extremely powerful, so Yi Qinghan's speed was useless against him. Whoosh! The ancient heavenly the arch drew his sword and charged at Yi Qinghan. Even though he wasn't a martial arts grandmaster, he was still unstoppable. Yi Qinghan's every attack was quickly intercepted by him. Kill! The experts on the periphery drew their swords one after another. A portion of them charged towards the Flame Emperor while the rest charged towards Yi Qinghan. The two of them had broken the rules of the secondary Saint realm and couldn't be left alive. The primordial yin-yang sneered. He had been waiting for the two of them to make a move. He could use this opportunity to kill Yi Qinghan with a borrowed knife. No one knew that Yi Qinghan had a sovereign realm source on him, so he could reap the benefits. There were too many people here. They couldn't use their true strength here and could only rely on their battle techniques. Yi Qinghan and Flame Emperor could indeed fight against 10 people each. They could even defeat dozens of people when they worked together. However, they couldn't block the attacks of hundreds or even thousands of people. Yi Qinghan's mask was split open and a bloody wound extended from his forehead to the tip of his nose. Flame Emperor and Yi Qinghan were forced to retreat again and again. Their bodies were stained with blood, but the two of them still managed to stay close to each other. "We can't stay here for long. Let's leave first," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. "Hua." Dao Ancestor Star-Defying waved his hand and said coldly, "Seal off their path back to the Chu Heaven Domain. These two can't be left alive." Swish. Swish. In an instant, at least 300 people blocked the path back to the origin universe. These people were the Taigu Emperor and half-martial ancestor of the various secondary universes. In the origin universe, Yi Qinghan and Flame Emperor could sweep through them. However, in the secondary Saint realm, these few hundred people could kill them. Yi Qinghan didn't retreat towards the Chu Heaven Domain. Instead, he and Flame Emperor repelled dozens of attacks and left the Kunlun Sacred Realm, returning to the secular world. The desert was filled with thorns and poisonous snakes. Once they returned to the secular world, the two of them couldn't even unleash the power of their secondary universes. However, if they couldn't unleash it, the others couldn't either. The dozens of experts who chased after them looked at them with murderous intent. There were laws in the secular world. It wasn't like the Chu Heaven Domain or the secondary universes. Killing people wasn't illegal as long as you had enough strength. Only the civilization here could be considered civilized, even though cultivation couldn't be done here. Yi Qinghan and Flame Emperor retreated to the road before the group of people had no choice but to stop. If they continued to kill, the secondary Saint realm would be exposed to the natives. This is. Flame Emperor frowned as he looked at the endless desert and asked in a deep voice. Planet Gaia, which isn't part of the five elements, is also known as the third planet. Yi Qinghan looked at the sky. The power of the ancestor realm had completely disappeared. No one knew what was going on. Presumably, Yuan Venerates, Dao Ancestors, and Dao Ancestor Star-Defying didn't know what was going on either. "I can't even unleash any power here," Flame Emperor said in surprise. Yi Qinghan snorted and said with certainty, "Therefore, besides Supreme Venerable Yi, this is the key to breaking through the ancestor realm and entering the ruler realm." The Chu Heaven Domain was the original universe, and the original universe was the foundation of the secondary universes. Planet Gaia was definitely the foundation of the original universe. If planet Gaia was gone, the original universe would most likely have an accident. Therefore, the Chu Heaven Domain might have instinctively suppressed this place and not allowed anyone to cultivate. Senior Flame Emperor, I hope you can give up on refining Supreme Venerable Yi. Think about it from another perspective. If my beloved died and crazy manor was destroyed, would you be willing to refine the nine-colored Brahma heart to revive them? Yi Qinghan asked in a deep voice. Flame Emperor looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and asked, "Would you do that if you were in my shoes?" I would have also snatched the nine-colored Brahma heart before entering the Chu Heaven Domain. However, after entering the Chu Heaven Domain and finding planet Gaia, I wouldn't make things difficult for you, Yi Qinghan said with certainty. Phew, Flame Emperor took a deep breath and exhaled fiercely. He then said, "All right, you are outside the five elements. I will give you time. I hope you can break through to the Dominator realm and let me have no regrets. Otherwise, don't blame me." Yi Qinghan nodded and looked up at the sky. In this place, the order and laws of the secondary universe couldn't be used. Therefore, he couldn't see through the sky. He didn't understand the secret of planet Gaia's existence. It would be very difficult to find the mystery of breaking through to the Dominator realm. Father Divine Bird came here and took Supreme Venerable Yi away. I don't understand how he could do this with his weak cultivation, Yi Qinghan frowned and thought. Supreme Venerable Yi didn't understand either. His memories were too vague. Even now, he didn't know the reason why he could do this even after arriving at planet Gaia. Let's enter the secular world. Perhaps we can find the answer, Yi Qinghan said seriously. Flame Emperor had no other choice. He couldn't return to the secondary Saint realm, at least not for the time being. Now, he could only go with Yi Qinghan. Both of them were covered in blood. They would probably be arrested the moment they entered the secular world. Flame Emperor didn't understand the secular world, but Yi Qinghan knew a little. Therefore, after walking for more than 10 days, they finally found a lake. They washed their bodies and clothes and walked towards the secular world. Meanwhile, back in the ancient immortal world, Papa Divine Bird used the power of the Chaos Heavenly Domain to reform the ancient immortal world. All the experts of Crazy Manor returned, but the path to the Chaos Heavenly Domain was blocked. Gu Qingyu and the others were still in the Taigu Emperor realm and couldn't change their fate. However, Father Divine Bird was also a wretched person. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan could really return. Therefore, he didn't dare to make things difficult for Crazed Manor. Chapter 2958. In the ancient immortal world, the primal chaos domain and the seeking heaven domain had been forcibly split apart by Daddy Divine Bird. Yi Qinghan and the others couldn't enter, and the people of Crazy Manor couldn't leave. Gu Qingyu, Shi Gu, Qitian Monkey King, Green Lotus Sword Immortal, Jian Qinxue, Mu Zhuang, Charity Saint, Sui Shuguang, Feng Huang, Mo Li, Li Feng, Stan Wuxia, Li Peiza, and Emperor Yi were all gathered in the Chaos Heavenly Domain. They asked God Bird Daddy to open the Chaos Heavenly Domain, but God Bird Daddy didn't agree. Xiao Heaven Domain. Since we were able to separate from the Chaos Heavenly Domain back then, it means that we can enter the Qiu Heaven Domain without going through the Qiu Heaven Domain, Chess Saint said as he looked at the Chaos Heavenly Domain in deep thought. Back then, the Taigu Emperor of the Kuang Mansion did not dare to intervene, not because he was afraid of death, but because he was afraid that the Kuang Mansion would be implicated, so he had no choice but to escape with them. Now that primordial Yin-Yang, Yen-Yu, and the others had left the ancient immortal world, they naturally had to participate in the battle, but first, they had to enter the Qiu Tian region. The Divine Bird's father definitely knew about this path, but he didn't say anything. Gu Qingyu's eyes flashed. He slashed his sword into the primal chaos heavenly domain and said angrily, "Father Divine Bird, for better or worse, your sovereign Ye's father. How can you be so unreasonable?" Whoosh! The father of the Divine Bird turned into a white-haired old man and said seriously, "I am the heavenly Tao, I have no desires, bullshit. If you don't have any desires, I'll pull my head off and let you use it as a urinal." Shi Gu was so angry that he seemed to have gone mad. He held the brick in his hand and scolded sternly. The Father Divine Bird shrugged and didn't let go. Instead, he said earnestly, "Why are you doing this? Qiu Tian region is not something you Taigu Emperor can handle. Even if you find Yi Qinghan, can he overturn the heavens? Can he bring you to kill primordial Yin-Yang and the other two ancestor realm experts? What's more, Yan Emperor also wants to fight for sovereign Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan is fighting 1 against 4. It's impossible for him to win. He might even be dead by now. I separated the Seeker Heaven Domain and the Primal Chaos Heaven Domain to protect you." Boom! Qitian Monkey King pierced the ground with his staff and glared at the Father Divine Bird. He cursed, "Shameless old man, how can there be a heavenly Tao like you? You, bullshit, what's wrong with me?" Although the Father Divine Bird was angry, he still held it in and cursed back, "I'm the most benevolent heavenly Tao in the secondary universe." Secondary universe. This was the first time everyone from Kuang Fu had heard of this term. Their eyes lit up. They could obtain a lot of information from this sentence. There was more than one secondary universe. If there was a secondary universe, there would naturally be a main universe. The Seeker Heaven Domain is the original universe. The original universe is outside of the 5 elements. You have no ability to breathe inside unless you bring your own special breathing apparatus. That's easy to get, but the Seeker Heaven Domain has primordial black holes and cracks. They can take away the Taigu Emperor's life at any time. That's why I left you here. You can't survive in the Seeker Heaven Domain. Why do you want to die? What if those unfilial children are waiting at the entrance of the Seeker Heaven domain? If I open the Seeker Heaven domain, I'll be walking right into their trap. Kuang Fu clearly wasn't afraid of death. Even if he could block primordial Yin Yang's attack with his life, he could still buy Yi Qinghan a chance to kill him. We'll take the breathing apparatus ourselves. How can we enter the Seeker Heaven domain without opening the seal? Gu Qingyu asked firmly. Father Divine Bird couldn't stop Kuang Fu's will, especially the older generation experts. The Chaos Heaven domain was silent for a long time. Father Divine Bird didn't say anything either. Whoosh! At that moment, a great Tao appeared in the sky. The merciless Tao. Yi Mingxi appeared, her eyes filled with the merciless Tao seal. She had perfected the merciless Tao. Boom! The birth of a new progenitor caused the great Tao to rumble. Yi Mingxi looked emotionless, but deep down, she still had feelings, especially for Shirgu and Yi Qinghan. Father Divine Bird could stop the Taigu Emperor, but he couldn't stop a progenitor, let alone a merciless progenitor like Yi Mingxi. Hiss! Father Divine Bird sucked in a breath of cold air, then smiled awkwardly. I didn't expect another progenitor to appear. Mingxi, merciless progenitor, congratulations, cut the crap and open the Seeker Heaven domain seal. Yi Mingxi's voice was like the sound of nature, but there wasn't a trace of emotion. Father Divine Bird smiled bitterly. It was too late to create another progenitor, and the one he created wouldn't be as good as the one she cultivated. They weren't even on the same level. If Yi Qinghan and the others aren't dead, they should be on the third planet. I know a special passage that can enter the third planet, but you have to remember that all laws of order can't be used there. You'll be like a mortal who can only return after reaching the secondary saint realm. Father Divine Bird didn't want to open the passage to the Seeker Heaven domain, so he could only tell them the shortcut. Speak, Yi Mingxi said coldly. Her words were as precious as gold. It's the passage between the Dark Moon planet and East Divine planet. You've been in the middle and didn't go any deeper. Once you reach the deepest part, you'll be able to enter the third planet. In fact, there's always a way out. Every secondary universe has a special passage that leads directly to the third planet. Those who aren't Taigu Emperor shouldn't go too deep, or you'll die in the depths of the passage even if you have a breathing device. Also, don't disturb the order of the third planet, or the entire primary and secondary universes will be in chaos. Father Divine Bird didn't dare to hide anything and frankly reminded them. Also, time moves slower there. A year in the secondary universe is only a day there. After Yi Mingxi received the news, she looked at Shirgu and the others and said coldly, Taigu Emperor, follow me if you want to fight. Whoosh! The older generation of crazed manner followed. No one was willing to give up at the last step. Yi Mingxi simply created a special space to store the spiritual energy of the ancient immortal world. It could be used by the Taigu Emperor to breathe. The space inside was very large and was enough for them to use. Everyone had a special rod-shaped object in their mouths. It was smaller than a finger and wouldn't affect them. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh. The group left and went straight between Dark Moon planet and East God planet. Third planet, Dragon-Seeking Nation. Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor didn't expect Crazed Manor to come looking for them. The two of them were looking for some useful information in the major libraries. However, with the passage of time, there weren't many ancient myths and legends left. There was no one cultivating on the third planet. Even if there were some martial artists, they wouldn't be considered elegant in the small planes of the secondary universe. They couldn't be blamed because of the special order here. In fact, the special order here was protecting the planet. It was definitely a blessing and not a curse. After searching for a few months, Yi Qinghan shuttled through various major cities. In the end, he didn't get any useful information. In the end, he had no choice but to go to various legendary sections. Their inheritance had never been broken. There were also legends that some people entered the Tao through martial arts. It was just that no one knew what Tao they were talking about. Coincidentally, the first sect they went to was Taoism. This was the foundation religion of dragon-seeking nation. There were many legends about it. Chapter 2959. Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor had an extraordinary temperament. Since they came to visit the Taoist sect leader was very polite and led them to the main hall. Yi Qinghan went straight to the point and did not beat around the bush. He asked bluntly, "Esteemed master, I just want to know if the myths and legends of ancient times really exist. Were there really people who could cultivate in the past? Did your sect really have people who cultivated in martial arts?" The Taoist sect leader had a sage-like demeanor. His brows were filled with wisdom. He looked at Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor and could tell that they were not ordinary people. "You are from the secondary universe?" The Taoist sect leader asked with certainty. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He did not expect the Taoist sect leader to know about the secondary universe. Yan Emperor was also shocked. People from the secondary universe were not willing to interact with people from the third planet. Therefore, he did not expect this sage-like person to know about the secondary universe. "How do you know about the secondary universe?" Yi Qinghan asked curiously. The Taoist sect leader smiled and said faintly, "In the vast universe, everything starts from nothing. This old man is nothing. Naturally, I know what I should know. Since you are from the secondary universe, you should not have entered the secular world. Why did you two enter the secular world?" "Esteemed Lord, we are here to seek the Tao. Please enlighten us." Yi Qinghan stood up and bowed slightly with his fists cupped. The Taoist sect leader shook his head and replied calmly, "You probably do not understand history. Otherwise, you would not have come. The two of us don't know much about history. Please enlighten us." Yi Qinghan bowed again. The Taoist sect leader pondered for a long time and left the main hall, leaving Yan Emperor and Yi Qinghan looking at each other. "Do you understand history? The history of this place?" Yi Qinghan looked at Yan Emperor. In terms of age, Yan Emperor was much older than him and should know more. Yan Emperor shook his head and replied, "I don't understand. The time here seems to be different from the secondary universe. I can feel my vitality slipping away. Very soon, we will die of old age here. No wonder that group of people only chased us to the outside of Kunlun secondary saint realm. They wanted to exhaust us to death here." In just a few months, Yan Emperor felt that something was wrong. At this time, he could clearly feel that his life was rapidly slipping away. In the secondary universe, he could live for an unlimited amount of time. However, in this place, it seemed that he could only live for a few decades, just like other people in the secular world. Yi Qinghan tapped his fingertips on the table as he silently looked outside the hall. That sect master had left without saying a word, so he was definitely not trying to chase him away, so he was waiting. After a long time, the Taoist leader held an ancient scripture in his hands. It was extremely ancient and filled with the vicissitudes of history. This is an ancient scripture left behind by the founder of Taoism. It records the ancient history. Perhaps it will be useful to you. The Taoist sect leader placed the ancient scripture on the table between Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor. Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor looked at each other and took out the ancient scripture. The first page of the scripture read, "Ancient Chaos Scripture. In ancient times, the third planet was not like this. It could be cultivated. Moreover, the laws of order were much stronger and more stable than the secondary universe. This attracted the attention of the top experts of the secondary universe. They wanted to seize control of the original universe and dominate everything. In the end, a war broke out in the original universe. The gods of the original universe joined hands to fight against the top experts of the secondary universe. However, there were too many secondary universe and even more experts. This led to the destruction of many life planets in the original universe. The original universe suffered countless attacks. The aftermath of the attacks affected the third planet. Lord Yu appeared and refined the 9 cauldrons to suppress Hongmeng. He used the energy source of the ruler to gather the power of the 5 elements on the third planet and created Kunlun Secondary Saint Realm. Since then, myths became legends. The original universe could still evolve into a secondary universe. However, the third planet was no longer a holy land. It became a place where no one could cultivate. It was abandoned by the gods and immortals. This was the origin of transcending the 5 elements. Yi Qinghan handed the ancient scripture to Yan Emperor and pondered silently. This was only an ancient scripture written by the founder of Taoism. He had to consider whether it was real or not. If it was real, it meant that this place was controlled by the 9 cauldrons. The 9 cauldrons were the rulers of the original universe. Obtaining the 9 cauldrons and refining the ruler's energy might be the true ruler realm. The reverse 5 elements third planet targeted people from the secondary universe. Yan Emperor was no exception. His life force was draining very quickly. On the other hand, Yi Qinghan's life force was not as exaggerated. From this, it could be seen that the ancient scriptures' records were very likely true. This is history. The conflict between the original universe and the secondary universe. However, this conflict disappeared after the 9 cauldrons suppressed Hongmeng. No matter how many people from the secondary universe came, they could not affect the third planet. Therefore, this war had been stopped since ancient times. The Taoist sect leader said with a bow. Yan Emperor asked seriously, "Where are the 9 cauldrons now?" "They are everywhere in Hongmeng. It is impossible to obtain the 9 cauldrons. Even if you do, what can you do? The secondary universe and the original universe might collapse because of the 9 cauldrons. What this old man wants to tell you is that there is no need to struggle. If the 2 of you can persuade the Kunlun secondary sage experts, then let them leave." The Taoist sect leader said calmly. Yi Qinghan sneered. They couldn't wait to kill him and Yan Emperor. Why would they listen to their persuasion? Then, where are Yu Zun and the others? Yan Emperor asked curiously. Yu Zun died due to exhaustion. The other sages have already left the third planet. Now, the third planet has no fate with the immortal gods. There is no need for fate because the immortal gods are no longer able to control the third planet. They can control their own fate. The Taoist sect leader said faintly. Yi Qinghan stared at the Taoist sect leader. His eyes were calm and determined. There was no doubt in them. "You are the founder of Taoism?" Yi Qinghan asked in a deep voice. The Taoist sect leader smiled and said frankly, "I didn't expect you to see through me. You can think of it that way. I have been here for many years. The vast masses started from nothing and returned to peace. This old man doesn't want to leave his homeland." Yan Emperor and Yi Qinghan sucked in cold air and looked at the Taoist sect leader in shock. Even on the third planet, which transcended the 5 elements, this old man had the demeanor of a great expert. He was at least a grandmaster, and his strength was definitely on par with Tao Ancestor Startifying and the other 2 paragons. It's not that you don't want to leave your homeland. You are protecting the 9 cauldrons. Yi Qinghan stood up and said. The Taoist sect leader shook his head and replied calmly, "The 9 cauldrons don't need this old man to protect them. No one can take the 9 cauldrons away. Even I can't. Others might be able to obtain the ruler's energy." Yi Qinghan stared at the Taoist sect leader and probed. "Ha ha ha, so what if you obtain the ruler's energy? Do you think you can become a ruler by relying on the ruler's energy source? Wouldn't rulers be everywhere then?" The Taoist sect leader replied with a smile. Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor were shocked. The Taoist sect leader in front of them was definitely not an ordinary progenitor. This old man has refined the ruler's energy source. The Taoist sect leader looked directly at the two and didn't hide anything. Chapter 2960. The old man's words made Yan Emperor and Yi Qinghan's hair stand on end. This was the first time they had seen someone who had refined the sovereign's source energy. Moreover, this person was living in seclusion in the secular world. This person could easily kill Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor in an instant. However, his temperament was not something Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor could compare to. He no longer cared about anything else. He only wanted to cultivate in seclusion and watch the masses multiply. Senior. Yi Qinghan immediately stood up and bowed. May I ask if Senior is a sovereign now? Can you revive the dead? The Taoist old man shook his head and smiled. If this old man was a sovereign, why would I need the two of you to dissuade the secondary saints? I would just order them to leave. As for reviving the dead, this old man is still unable to do so. Only when I become a true sovereign can I revive the dead. Yan Emperor's expression dimmed. He had no intention of becoming a sovereign. He only wanted to revive his people and loved ones. If the old man in front of him could do that, he could return to the ancient immortal world and live out his days in peace. He only envied mandarin ducks, not immortals. The Taoist old man said faintly, what should come will come and what should leave will not stay. The two of you don't have to be so stubborn. This little friend Yan Emperor cannot withstand the order of this place. The people in the secondary universe cannot withstand it. On the other hand, little friend Yi is fine. I believe your soul came from here, right? Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. Although the old man in front of him hadn't transcended, he had already surpassed the scope of their understanding. As long as he was here, no one would dare to act presumptuously on the third planet. Junior admires Senior's discerning eyes. Yi Qinghan bowed. The old man looked at Yan Emperor and said faintly, go back. This is not a place you should be. In such a desperate situation, rather than struggling, it is better to wait. Yan Emperor smiled bitterly. How could he be willing to wait? Wait for Yi Qinghan to become a sovereign. Rather than waiting, he might as well take the initiative to attack. Senior, Junior would like to ask for some advice. If refining the sovereign source energy is not enough to become a sovereign, how can one become a sovereign? Yi Qinghan asked respectfully. Ha ha ha, the old man laughed heartily and pointed to the sky, you have to ask the heavens. This old man has not done it, how can I give you an answer? Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor were silent. If one could not become a sovereign at this level, how can one become a sovereign? Ethereal ruler, no one has reached this level, not even virtuous paragon Yuzun. Once someone reaches this level, the balance between the primary and secondary universes will be lost, but in exchange, there will be an eternal balance. Who can tell who is right and who is wrong? I just feel that this balance is quite good. The old man flatly said. Yi Qinghan sighed. If one wanted to have no regrets, the price one had to pay was unimaginable. There was no such thing as perfection that could be easily obtained. The Flame Emperor sighed. His request didn't seem to be much, but it was hard to achieve, thank you. The Taoist old man looked at Yan Emperor as if he could see through his eyes. Your wish may come true. The road ahead is long. Cherish it. This old man will not stay any longer. You shouldn't be here. Go back. The old man said calmly. Yan Emperor's eyes lit up. Since this sovereign said it was possible, there must be hope. Thank you, sovereign. If there is a day when I have no regrets, I am willing to kowtow to you. Yan Emperor said solemnly. The old man smiled faintly and replied calmly, I may be able to bear little friend Ye's kneeling, but I can't bear your kowtow. If there comes a day when your wish is fulfilled, please don't forget your original intentions. Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor were stunned. They did not understand what the old man meant. You are a person of great merit. You may experience some hardships now, but you will not be alone for the rest of your life. This old man will not say more. The old man reminded. Yan Emperor was a person of great merit. Yi Qinghan looked at Yan Emperor. He had never doubted Yan Emperor's heart. It was a good thing that his wish could come true. At this moment, the old man suddenly walked out of the hall. He looked at the fog in the mountains and the void and said, "Someone is here to pick you up." Southwest, outside the secondary Saint realm, Yi Qinghan was shocked. The person who came to pick them up must be someone from the crazy manor. "Senior, this junior will disturb you again in the future. I will take my leave now." Yi Qinghan hurriedly bowed with his hands clasped in front of him. Then, he pulled the stunned Yan Emperor and rushed down the mountain. Looking at Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor's backs, the Taoist old man sighed softly and said, "The universe is really mysterious. The old ancestor's merit was actually passed to the secondary universe. The other kid is actually from here." Fortunately, Taoism was the foundation of the dragon-seeking nation. It had been passed down since ancient times. From the outside, it seemed to have lost its essence. However, everyone in the circle knew that Taoism was still Taoism. It had not lost its inheritance. What should be passed down had been passed down. Yi Qinghan did not know much about Taoism. At this moment, he and Yan Emperor were riding on secular transportation and headed straight to Kunlun Secondary Saint Realm. At this moment, Yi Mengshi and the others were all holding divine weapons. They knew nothing about this place and were dressed differently from the secular world. They had actually come directly from the secondary universe to the secondary Saint Realm. They did not even pass through the secondary Saint Realm. However, their arrival still attracted the attention of the secondary Saint Realm experts. After all, it was more than a dozen experts appearing at once. Immemorial Yinyang received the news and walked out of the secondary Saint Realm. When he saw the people from the crazy manor, his eyes were filled with killing intent. There is a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. Hell has no door. Immemorial Yinyang muttered to himself. On the third planet, he would definitely be courting death if he went to look for the people from the crazy manor. However, he had made a lot of friends recently and they came in handy. Hua! More than 20 experts appeared outside the secondary Saint Realm with divine weapons in their hands. The killing intent in their eyes was not concealed at all. Yan Emperor and Yi Qinghan had killed many people, including their close friends. Therefore, they came for revenge. Retreat, Gu Qingyu, Mu Zhuang, Qitian Monkey King and the others blocked the front. Yi Mengshi, who was now an ancestor, was not even in the top 3 in terms of combat strength. Qitian Monkey King and the others had the highest combat strength. Zeng zeng zeng, everyone moved faster and faster, holding the hilts of their weapons and retreating continuously. Immemorial Yinyang led 20 to 30 people to attack the people from the crazy manor. Their numbers were not equal and their combat strength could not be displayed. The people from the crazy manor could only escape towards the secular world. However, some of the opponents were very familiar with the terrain outside the Kunlun sacred realm. They quickly intercepted and surrounded the people from the crazy manor. Kill! The swords in the hands of Gu Qingyu and the others had lost their emperor's aura, but they were still much sharper than ordinary swords. They attacked ruthlessly and did not lose the essence of their sword moves. Swish! 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 Boom! In an instant, the swords collided and sparks flew. In the blink of an eye, there were casualties. Chapter 2961. Outside the Kunlun secondary Saint Realm, this was the Gobi Desert, gravel was everywhere, and barren mountains were everywhere. Swoosh! Swoosh! Although they could not fly, they could see the peak of martial arts in the mortal world. Gu Qingyu's solitary sword Dao was like a rainbow. In terms of martial arts, it could be compared to immemorial yin-yang. The two fought, and their sword auras were too sharp. After a while, a thin wound appeared on Gu Qingyu's chest. However, immemorial yin-yang also had a sword wound, but it was not serious. Swoosh! 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 Mu Zhuang and the others were fighting against several people. The sword Dao experts killed people in the blink of an eye. They kept killing the experts of the secondary universe. Blood splattered everywhere and dyed the Gobi Desert red. Green Lotus Sword Immortal's sword technique was elegant, Mu Zhuang's sword was sharp, Gu Qingyu's sword was cold, and Heaven's Equal Monkey King's staff technique was vigorous and powerful. However, Sui Shuguang, Charity Saint, and Emperor Yi were all outside the secondary saint realm. They had no fighting power at all and were forced to retreat. Feng Huang, Emoli, Li Feng, Wu Yan, and Li Peiza were in charge of protecting Emperor Yi, Sui Shuguang, and Charity Saint. Boom! Bang! Li Peiza's spear pierced through an expert's chest. At this moment, experts were easy to kill. Once their heart was pierced, they would die without a doubt. Hum! Hum! The enemy's sword swept horizontally, causing Li Peiza's spear to fly out of his hand. Swoosh! Feng Huang rolled on the ground, and his sword directly broke that expert's waist. The cooperation between the insane mansion was flawless. Even if someone was injured, before they were killed, there would definitely be people coming to rescue them. Desolate Lord Yi, Shi Gu, Brother Monkey King, take care of the left wing. Mu Zhuang, Li Feng, attack the right wing. The others, protect Emperor Yi, who has no fighting power, and rush to the southeast. Jian Qinxue shouted after seeing the situation. Kill, swoosh! 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 Screams were endless. However, this was the wilderness, and no one from the mortal world came. In just half an hour, there were at least 20 corpses lying on the ground. Feng Huang was injured, and Wu Yan was heavily injured. Sui Shuguang and Emoli carried him to the southeast. Swoosh, thud, 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 the limits of the martial path played a crucial role in this moment. Most of the Crazy Manners experts were battle-hardened, and although they had killed 20 experts, the number of enemies didn't decrease at all. Instead, it increased. Although the three paragons didn't make a move, they did send out their followers. The ancient heavenly emperor stood with his sword in his arms. He was waiting for an opportunity, but not for crazed manner. He was looking for an opportunity to kill the primordial yin-yang. The ancient heavenly emperor's soul and physical body were extremely powerful. On the third planet, his battle prowess even exceeded that of the primordial yin-yang. If he attacked, the primordial yin-yang would be easily killed. However, while primordial yin-yang was fighting Gu Qingyu, he was also on guard against the ancient celestial emperor. Now, the ancient heavenly ruler had befriended another supreme powerhouse, a Yuan venerate Dao ancestor. Primordial yin-yang followed Dao ancestor star-defying, so the ancient heavenly ruler had to kill primordial yin-yang quietly. Otherwise, it would cause a lot of trouble. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Mu Zhuang stabbed out more than 10 times in a row, severely injuring a top-notch martial artist. With a flying kick, he sent the expert flying 3 to 4 meters away, opening a path for the people of Guangfu. Whoosh! The experts of Guangfu were already injured and dripping with blood. However, they had to grit their teeth and fight in order to let the others escape safely. A moment later, except for Gu Qingyu, Qitian Monkey King, and a few others who were blocking the path for Guangfu, everyone else had retreated from the encirclement. Boom! Bang! Qitian Monkey King swept out with his staff and sent 7 or 8 people flying. The staff energy enveloped primordial yin-yang. Primordial yin-yang didn't dare to take it head-on, for fear that the ancient heavenly emperor would take the opportunity to kill him. He could only retreat a few steps. Without primordial yin-yang holding him back, Gu Qingyu and the others quickly escaped. Go, more than 10 people from Kuang Fu fled with their weapons. Blood splattered all over the ground. Primordial Yin Yang glared viciously at Kuang Fu before turning to the ancient heavenly emperor with a disdainful sneer. The ancient heavenly emperor unsheathed his sword. Primordial Yin Yang didn't dare to chase after him, but he also didn't want to let the people of Kuang Fu escape. In the end, he hesitated for a while and watched the experts of Kuang Fu escape, leaving behind corpses everywhere. Humph! Primordial Yin Yang snorted angrily. He sheathed his sword and said coldly, "Clean up the battlefield and return to the secondary Saint realm. Let's see how long they can live on the third planet." Yes, the average lifespan of the third planet was 70 to 80 years. Even if the people of Kuang Fu were in good health, they could only live up to 120 years old. Now that everyone was in their 20s or 30s, it meant that they would die of old age in at most 100 years. 100 years was indeed a long time for the people of the third planet, but for these people from the secondary universe, a shift was enough. Hoo hoo hoo, dong dong dong, hiss hiss hiss. The people of Kuang Fu ran for more than 100 miles and lost their direction in the mountains. Their breathing was rapid. This amount of exercise shouldn't be considered much, but on the third planet, they actually found it difficult to breathe. Everyone was covered in wounds. Under the scorching sun, the sunlight made them dizzy. Hua! Everyone's swords were stabbed into the rocks. They were extremely tired. This is the third planet that Father Divine Bird mentioned. Why is it like this? Jian Qinshue panted. There was a bloody wound on his right arm that almost tore it apart. He had little combat power left. He half knelt on the desert and could barely open his eyes. Yi Mengshi was here. The emotionless seal in her eyes had dissipated and returned to her heart. This made the people of Kuang Fu overjoyed. Shi Gu was so happy that he cried. The two hugged each other and didn't let go for a long time. Gu Qingyu looked around and saw a village located under a forest about 3 to 4 miles away from here. "Shuguang, you're not injured. Go and ask for directions. I hope we can find Old Yi as soon as possible," Gu Qingyu said hoarsely. Everyone nodded. Now, except for Zhou Shuguang, Emperor Yi, and Universal Love Saint, the rest were injured. They couldn't use the laws of the secondary universe here, so Emperor Yi and Universal Love Saint's physical strength was obviously not as good as Zhou Shuguang's. Zhou Shuguang didn't hesitate and quickly rushed toward the village. The people of Kuang Fu began to treat the seriously injured people like Emperor Feng and Wu Yan. The situation was critical. At this moment, Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor had just arrived outside Kunlun Secondary Sacred Realm. They saw the blood everywhere and hadn't had time to clean it. They followed the blood trail of Kuang Fu's experts and found that it disappeared after reaching a desert. However, they found the special mark of Kuang Fu in the direction of that village. At this moment, the sky was gradually darkening. The temperature difference was so great that even Yi Qinghan shivered. "Let's go and take a look at that village." Yi Qinghan saw a few small buildings and a row of low tile-roofed houses under the light of dusk and quickly rushed towards them. This small village was almost a dead village. Apart from some elderly and children, everyone else had left and locked their doors. The people of Kuang Fu had all entered this place. However, there was an obvious bloodstain on the wall of one of the houses. More than 10 people of Kuang Fu had hidden in this courtyard. The courtyard was overgrown with weeds and it seemed that no one had returned for a long time. Chapter 2962. Deep into the night, it was as dark as an abyss. The night here was especially cold. The experts of Kuang Manor couldn't stand it even if they were in the house. Coupled with their injuries, it was even more difficult. Hoo hoo hoo. Everyone's breathing was a little hurried, but their wounds finally stopped bleeding. Hua! Bang! Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor leaped and shuttled through the village, searching house by house. After half an hour, they finally found the people of Quang Manor. Who is it? In the pitch-black night, Mu Zhuang felt someone jump into the courtyard and immediately rushed out with his sword. Yi Qinghan held a night pearl in his hand, illuminating the courtyard. Seeing the people of Quang Manor covered in blood, he was angry and distressed. Who told you to come? Yi Qinghan angrily reprimanded. Boss, we came willingly through another path. We didn't take the Qiu Tian domain path. Father Divine Bird told us the way out, Mu Zhuang immediately replied. Hiss hiss hiss, Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. At this point it was already a foregone conclusion. There was no point in saying anything. Looking at everyone, except for Zhou Shuguang, Emperor Yi, and Charity Saint, everyone was heavily injured. It would be difficult for them to return from the secondary saint realm. The secondary saint realm was where most of the secondary universe's experts, including the Taigu Emperor, half-martial ancestor, and ancestor were gathered. Even if a secondary universe had 2 or 3 ancestors, 5 or 6 half-martial ancestors, and 20 Taigu emperors, that was 30 people. How many secondary universes were there? No one could say for sure. Even if half of the experts of a secondary universe came, there would still be a few thousand people. Yi Qinghan didn't expect to fight his way back from the secondary saint realm. Since you can enter using a special path, can you leave? Yi Qinghan asked. If there was a path, there must be a way out. However, everyone forgot to ask Father Divine Bird. Hua. There were spatial fluctuations. Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor pulled out their swords at the same time and turned back. It was actually the founder of Taoism, that old man. Hua. Yi Qinghan hurriedly cupped his fists and said, so it's senior. This old man was definitely a virtuous paragon. Being able to cause spatial fluctuations on the 3rd planet wasn't something an ordinary person could do. Yi Qinghan couldn't do it, and neither could the Flame Emperor. As for the 3 Supreme Tao ancestors, they weren't qualified either. The old man nodded slightly and said calmly, the path that the 10 of them took is an ancient flood path. Back then, the laws of the 3rd planet were stable. Even virtuous paragons couldn't destroy this place. In order to destroy the foundation of the 3rd planet, the experts of the secondary universe poured a flood into the passage and used the flood of the secondary universe to drown the 3rd planet. A large number of experts also used this flood path to ambush the 3rd planet, wanting to destroy all life on the 3rd planet. No one in the original universe could accept the inheritance, so naturally, they would fall quickly. In the end, virtuous paragon Yuzun used the 9 cauldrons to suppress Hongmeng. Not only did he isolate the laws and logos of this place, he also cut off the flood path. Many ancient flood paths were blocked, but there were some that weren't. However, the flood couldn't destroy this place. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but clench his fists, his bones cracking. The 2 of you can return from wherever you came from. Hua. The old man took out a jade bottle containing many pills and handed it to Yi Qinghan. Recover from your injuries. Tomorrow, this old man will bring you back to the ancient immortal world. As for the later stages, it will depend on your luck. The Taoist old man said calmly. Yi Qinghan asked respectfully, Senior, why are you helping us? The old man still looked at Yan Emperor and replied calmly, because he is tainted with the great merit of our old ancestor. Moreover, you are also a person of the 3rd planet. No matter what you achieve in the future, you won't destroy your own foundation. Reaching out to help is just a small matter. Yi Qinghan's memory had mostly recovered by now. He knew a little about the history of the 3rd planet and also knew who the old man was referring to. Therefore, he didn't say anything else. The people of the dragon-seeking kingdom were very particular about etiquette, righteousness, honor, and honor. Their ancestors were only the mortal kings group. In this place, no matter how shameless one was, at the very least, they knew to respect their ancestors, let alone virtuous paragons. They would never joke about their ancestors. "Thank you, Senior." Yi Qinghan bowed and said. Yan Emperor took a deep breath and bowed as well. "Thank you, esteemed lord." Yi Qinghan distributed the pills to everyone. These were all very simple healing pills. In the secondary universe, there was no need for them to be given to Kuang Fu. However, here, they were top-notch healing pills. Anything more advanced than that was of no use at all. Phew, Yi Qinghan looked at everyone quickly recovering and was completely relieved. The old man in front of him was definitely a virtuous paragon of the third planet. He would be a top figure even in the ancient times. With his help, even the 3 Tao ancestors wouldn't dare to mess around. The Taoist old man had his hands behind his back as he looked at the sky. He could see the stars behind the dark clouds clearly. His white hair fluttered in the wind, giving off an immortal aura. He gave off a calm and composed feeling, as if he wouldn't panic even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. At the old man's level, unless a ruler appeared, no one could disturb his mind. The road to happiness is strewn with setbacks. This old man is also looking forward to the third planet's ancient glory. It will no longer be a place without order. After all, this is the foundation of the original universe, the old man muttered to himself with some regret and helplessness. He could protect Yi Qinghan for now, but he couldn't protect him forever. Time passed little by little, and dawn slowly arrived. The injuries of the experts of the Kuang Manor were mostly healed. Even if they couldn't fight, they could still travel quickly. As the sky gradually brightened, the Taoist old man took the initiative to open the door and leave. Yi Qinghan immediately led the experts of the Kuang Manor to follow. Outside the secondary saint realm, the old man waved his hand lightly and a faint transparent barrier separated. The old man led the experts of the Kuang Manor into the secondary saint realm. There was a lot of spiritual energy in the secondary saint realm. The experts of the Kuang Manor felt refreshed and their injuries recovered. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, at least 70 to 80 people surrounded the place. They had been waiting here for a long time. The Taoist old man smiled and waved his hand. The people surrounding them involuntarily retreated. Immeasurable heavenly venerate, everyone should retreat. The old man's eyes were as bright as stars, and his might was oppressive. Even if he couldn't use almighty magic power, ordinary half-martial ancestors and progenitors couldn't contend against him. After all, he was someone who had refined ruler energy. Whoosh! Primordial yin-yang and all the other experts sensed that something was wrong when the old man appeared and stood up one after another. Tao Ancestor Star Defying immediately stood up and bowed. So it's the founder of the mortal realm Taoism, Celestial Master Zhang. This junior is sorry to disturb you. The Yuan Venerate Tao Ancestor and another demon Venerate Tao Ancestor also stood up and bowed. Greetings, founder of the mortal realm Taoism, Celestial Master Zhang. Sigh, Celestial Master Zhang. No one dared to call him by his full name. After all, he was a transcendent. Even if he wasn't a ruler, he could almost rule everything. Celestial Master Zhang smiled and said calmly, "Since the 3 of you still recognize this old man, why don't you make way?" Chapter 2963. With just one sentence, the 3 Supreme Tao Fathers bowed and avoided him. Even if he wanted to protect Yi Qinghan and Yan Huang, the 2 people who broke the rules, because the rules were set by the strong and followed by the weak. It was obvious that the founder of Taoism was not an ordinary person. According to historical records, Yi Qinghan had some impression of the founder of Taoism. Since the other party called him Celestial Master Zhang, he should be the Zhang Daoling recorded in history. He was the one who founded Taoism. A virtuous paragon of the dragon-seeking nation in ancient times. He was probably second only to the ancestors and human emperors. Even the ancestor realm of the secondary universe had to bow and avoid this virtuous paragon, which showed his strength. However, at this moment, immemorial Yin-Yang whispered something to Tao ancestor star-defying. His expression changed, but he quickly suppressed it. Celestial Master Zhang, since you've spoken, the juniors won't dare to speak nonsense. Please do as you wish. Tao ancestor star-defying bowed and gestured with his hand. Zhang Daoling smiled faintly and reminded them, this old man has said many times. Without a ruler, why bother staying here? Instead of wasting time here, why don't you go home and accompany your children and grandchildren and enjoy the joys of the world? After saying that, Zhang Daoling waved his hand and brought Yi Qinghan and the others out of the secondary sage realm. Everyone's cultivation recovered. Zhang Daoling didn't waste any time and directly teleported away with the Crazy Mansion's experts, Yan Emperor, and Yi Qinghan. Their destination was the ancient immortal world. This virtuous paragon knew a lot about the secondary universe and used only a few years to reach the Seeking Heaven domain outside the ancient immortal world. The Seeking Heaven domain, which had been sealed, was directly torn apart by Zhang Daoling and forcibly sent Yi Qinghan and the others back to the chaotic heavenly domain. Everyone has their own fate. What should be will always be there, and there's no need to cling to what shouldn't be. That's all I have to say. I wish you two good luck. Zhang Daoling said faintly, then turned and floated away. Ancient immortal world, chaotic heavenly domain. The Father Divine Bird was dumbfounded. He looked at Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor and trembled all over. He hurriedly flattered, congratulations to the two of you. I knew that the two of you would be blessed and would be fine. Tap tap tap, Yi Qinghan tapped his left arm with his fingertips and looked calmly at the Divine Bird's father. The situation was extremely awkward. Dad, is there anything you want to tell me? After a long silence, Yi Qinghan calmly asked. Phew, the experts of the Kuang Manor all let out a sigh of relief as they looked coldly at the father of the Divine Bird. The Divine Bird Supreme Being Yi also ran out, glaring angrily at this old man. He wanted nothing more than to rip off his white beard. The Divine Bird's father had a charming smile on his face. He wanted nothing more than to give Yi Qinghan a massage. This old man has nothing to say. As for that primal chaos ancestor who lost control, I originally wanted him to help you. Who would have thought that he would run off to fight for the sovereign's origin energy? How preposterous. The Divine Bird's father spouted nonsense with a straight face. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose. The cold smile on his face made the Divine Bird's father shudder involuntarily. Let's talk about the story of the third planet and the sovereign's origin energy. You must know more than I do. I hope you won't be stingy with your teachings. Yi Qinghan stared at the Divine Bird's father and said coldly. This. The Divine Bird's father smiled bitterly. He did know a lot about the third planet, not much less than Zhang Daoling, but he didn't know what to say. Yi Qinghan stared at the Divine Bird's father and reminded him with certainty, if you don't want to be replaced, please be more sincere and tell me some useful information. If you're not sincere, I'll throw you to the heaven domain and let you have a good chat with that yin-yang person. Perhaps you'll have something in common. Don't. I do know some things about the third planet, but they're all trivial matters. If I knew more and knew the mysteries of becoming a sovereign, you wouldn't have the right to tell me what to do, right? The Divine Bird's father smiled bitterly. Then tell me what's useful, Yi Qinghan said coldly. Don't waste my time. It's very precious. Yi Qinghan recalled what the immemorial Yin-Yang whispered to Tao ancestor star-defying. Judging from the other party's expression, he didn't need to guess to know that he had told Tao ancestor star-defying about the sovereign's origin energy. The other party would definitely come to see sovereign star-defying. Since the immemorial Yin-Yang had told Tao ancestor star-defying, the ancient heavenly emperor wouldn't be so stupid as to inform the Yuan venerates and Tao ancestors. Yi Qinghan felt a sense of crisis in his heart. Therefore, he had to know the mysteries of becoming a sovereign. He wouldn't let go of even the slightest clue. The divine bird's father saw the urgency in Yi Qinghan's eyes and also felt a sense of crisis. It was very likely that sovereign star-defying had been exposed to the other secondary universes. The ancestor realm experts of the secondary universes were very likely to attack the ancient immortal world. The new order was obtained from a cauldron. I wanted to steal that cauldron as well, but it seemed to be fixed. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't move it. The divine bird's father sank into his memories. His expression also became serious as he slowly said, "That cauldron was standing on a dead star outside the void for no reason, a dead star outside the void? How did you fly there?" Yi Qinghan asked in surprise. The divine bird's father looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise, as if he was looking at an idiot. He asked in return, "Didn't you enter the void? You sped all the way from the Seeking Heaven domain to the teleportation stele in the Kunlun secondary saint realm. Don't be teleported to the secondary saint realm. Go directly to the void and slowly float there. There are some laws of order outside the void that will allow you to enter the dead star smoothly. However, it's quite dangerous." Yi Qinghan snorted and said hoarsely, "Only you would dare to do such a thing, right? Hee hee. You flatter me. Up until now, I'm indeed the only one who dares to do such a thing." The divine bird's father laughed proudly. Yi Qinghan couldn't be bothered to say more. He secretly pondered. If there was a cauldron on a dead star in the void, could it be that the so-called 9 cauldrons suppressing the flood wasn't suppressed on the 3rd planet, but on the 9 major planets to suppress the ancient flood path and all the laws and order in the vicinity of the 3rd planet? Yi Qinghan pondered silently. This was not impossible. If the 9 cauldrons were only suppressed on the 3rd planet, the laws and order in the vicinity would not have been lost. Are the other 8 cauldrons also on other planets? No wonder those in the secondary saint realm couldn't find any clues after so long. It turns out that the 9 cauldrons aren't on the 3rd planet at all. They won't be able to find them no matter how long they search. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and paced back and forth in the chaotic heavenly domain. If I can find the other 8 cauldrons, there must be a sovereign's origin in them. I can obtain a cauldron and refine the sovereign's origin. Even if I can't become a sovereign, I can still lead other progenitors like Senior Zhang Daoling and become a virtuous paragon on the 3rd planet. At that level, the people I come into contact with might be virtuous paragons. I might be able to find more clues. Different levels and different circles. Yi Qinghan exhaled a turbid breath. On the 3rd planet, there was actually a special circle, which was the legendary sages of Earth's myths. However, many of them were exaggerated. In essence, they weren't that powerful. The main reason was that the laws of order here were suppressed. On this day, Zhang Daoling returned to the 3rd planet and stood on top of the Jingyi sect's main peak. "Sage Yuzun, can anyone really become a sovereign? If no one becomes a sovereign, the 9 cauldrons will continue to suppress the laws and order of the 3rd planet. Most of the souls in the secondary universe will not be able to reincarnate in the primary universe. You're using merit and life to exchange for the continuation of the 3rd planet. If this continues, your merit will be exhausted sooner or later." Zhang Daoling sighed softly and felt rather helpless. Yuzun was a great sage with boundless merit, but if this continued, Sage Yuzun's soul would completely vanish. Chapter 2964. Yuzun was one of the human rulers. Many people did not understand the true merit of Yuzun, but people at his level understood that his merit was almost unparalleled. It turned out that the virtuous paragons of the 3rd planet were also looking for people who could become rulers. Of course, the people of the original universe were candidates. The people of the secondary universe could not become rulers. Unfortunately, Dao Ancestor Star-Defying had forgotten his original intentions. Zhang Daoling was a little unhappy, so he took the initiative to help Yi Qinghan, hoping that he could become a ruler. Once a ruler became one, the third planet would be liberated. The people there would be able to cultivate without any scruples. Whoosh, Zhang Daoling left the mortal realm and headed to the special circle of the third planet. This circle was not big and there were not many people. However, they were all human rulers and human ancestors. They were divine figures of the Tao and had made endless contributions to humanity. However, all this had nothing to do with Yi Qing Han or the masters of the secondary universe. The ancient heavenly emperor had indeed sold out the matter of Yi Qing Han. How could the Yuan venerates and Tao ancestors give up when they found out that Yi Qing Han actually had a ruler's energy source? The demon venerates and Tao ancestors did not know about the ruler's energy source and did not want to interfere in the grievances between them and Yi Qing Han. Therefore, they left with their followers after the gathering in the secondary universe ended. The Yuan venerates and Tao ancestors star-defying were well aware of this. Thus, they led their respective armies to the Seeking Heaven territory and the ancient immortal world. In the Seeking Heaven territory, chaotic energy surged. A young man with a breathing apparatus in his mouth moved forward quietly, sensing a different aura. He held a dagger in his hand and his handsome profile flashed with an extraordinary temperament. The Taigu Emperor had this kind of temperament. It was Yan Yunbei. Yan Yunbei frowned as he looked into the distance. There were already many figures in the distance. Whoosh, whoosh, Yan Yunbei did not hesitate. He immediately returned to the chaotic heavenly territory with the dagger. Now, the chaotic heavenly territory and the Seeking Heaven territory had merged again. Yi Qing Han and the Flame Emperor were sitting in the chaotic heavenly territory. Although the Divine Bird Father was still controlling the nomological order, he did not dare act recklessly in front of the two martial ancestors. Old Yi, they are here. I don't know how many of them there are, but I'm sure there are a lot of them. Yan Yunbei wiped the dagger on his body and said in a deep voice. Yi Qing Han frowned. This time, they would have to deal with Tao ancestor star-defying and Yuan venerate Tao ancestors. Experts of this level could be compared to Yi Qing Han and the Flame Emperor. In a one-on-one battle, it was unknown who would emerge victorious. The key was that there were more opponents. Father, introduce me to Tao ancestor star-defying, Yuan venerate Tao ancestor, demon venerate Tao ancestor, and the secondary universe. I want to have a clear understanding of their situation, Yi Qing Han said as he stared at his father. The Divine Bird Father raised his eyebrows and thought for a long time before saying in a muffled voice, these three old bastards are not easy to deal with. They are truly autocratic. Their cultivation bases are similar to yours, so the two of you will be defeated if a few martial ancestors pin you down. Their cultivation bases are too strong. Each of them rules over a secondary universe. The key is that these secondary universes are stronger than us. Martial ancestors, half-martial ancestors, and even the Taigu Emperor outnumber us. Why don't we surrender? Yi Qing Han took a deep breath and glared at the Divine Bird Father. He really wanted to throw him out of the chaotic heavenly territory and throw him to the immemorial Yin Yang. The Flame Emperor's lips curled as he said coldly, we'll deal with whatever comes our way. I also want to find the immemorial Yin Yang. Yi Qing Han smiled bitterly. The Flame Emperor had actually not learned to endure after so many years. If they fought at this time, the casualties would definitely be heavier. Ka, Yi Qing Han clenched his fists and summoned the chess sage and the Divine Bird. Everyone, let's think of a way together. 3 heads are better than Zhuge Liang. We can think of a way. Yi Qing Han said solemnly. The Divine Bird asked curiously, who is Zhuge Liang? It's your uncle. Yi Qing Han replied unhappily. The Divine Bird looked at his father in confusion and asked, when did I have an uncle? Do you have an elder brother? Is he powerful? Pa, the Divine Bird Father slapped his own head and looked at his foolish son in disdain. He snorted and said, "Your boss is looking down on you for being ignorant. He is saying that there is strength in numbers. We can think of a better way." Oh, Sovereign Yi curled his lips. He did not expect that he would be played by Yi Qinghan. The chess sage was very calm. He was definitely a virtuous figure in the intellectual world. At such a critical moment, he was still needed. The Crazy Mansion's army regrouped. The 1st and 2nd battalions of the Conquering Heaven camp gathered together. They might not even be able to defeat the fake Taigu Emperor, but with millions of people gathered together, it would not be a problem to stop an ancestor through the chess sage's array. The experts of the Crazy Mansion were all preparing for war. Let's seal the Begging Heaven domain for a period of time. Many people were silent. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to compromise first. The Divine Bird Father did not want to fight at all. Therefore, he agreed to Yi Qinghan's suggestion first. Whoosh! Boom! The Begging Heaven domain and the Primal Chaos Heavenly domain were sealed again. Screech! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan and the Flame Emperor worked together to set up a barrier. Even if the enemy wanted to enter the Begging Heaven domain, it would still take some time. A few days later, the Begging Heaven domain and the Primal Chaos Heavenly domain shone brightly, causing the Primal Chaos Heavenly domain to tremble. The barrier set up by the Flame Emperor and Yi Qinghan shone brightly and firmly blocked the Yuan Venerates, Dao Ancestors, and Dao Ancestor Star Defying. There would not be any problems in the short term. However, this did not mean that there would be no worries. Yi Qinghan stared at the Divine Bird Father and asked curiously, "Don't you know how to create ancestor realms? Get me a few of them." Pfft. The Divine Bird Father sneered and said speechlessly, "Do you think ancestor realms are so easy to get? The last one had to spend a lot of heavenly medicine essence to get one, and you even killed it. You still have the cheek to say that?" Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. The Divine Bird Father smiled. He was the one in the wrong. It was already good enough that Yi Qinghan had spared him. Yi Qinghan, the Flame Emperor, and Yi Mengshi were only 3 ancestor realms. Even the best of the ancestor realms could not be compared to all the experts of the secondary universe. There was simply no way to fight. "Father, you know the secondary universe the best. Think of a way for me, or we will all die together," Yi Qinghan said helplessly. If it had been the Divine Bird Father, he would have definitely surrendered without hesitation. However, how could Yi Qinghan and the Flame Emperor surrender? Even if they surrendered, Supremacy Yi would not be able to escape. It was better to refine it himself than to let others refine it. We have no hope of winning. How can we fight? The Divine Bird Father reminded him helplessly. Yi Qinghan stared at the Divine Bird Father. This fella had thought of a way out for himself when he had been kidnapped by the primordial yin-yang. How could he admit defeat now? "I think the ancient immortal realm should be replaced. Supremacy Yi, are you interested in controlling the order of the ancient immortal realm?" Yi Qinghan asked faintly. Supremacy Yi was immediately energized. He nodded repeatedly and replied, "No problem, no problem. Wait, I remember now. I have a way." The Divine Bird Father immediately said righteously, "There is more than one connection between the secondary universes. There is an insurmountable chaos trench between the secondary universes. The heavenly domain and the heavenly domain of chaos can be split. If we open the trench in the split, this trench can swallow anything. The ancestor realms will not be able to attack. In this way, even if you enter the 3rd planet through a special passage, you will not be able to return." Chapter 2965. Yi Qinghan didn't say anything, but Flame Emperor asked, "Since Chaos Trench can swallow anything, can you tell me how to open it?" The Divine Bird Father was speechless. He looked at Yi Qinghan and Flame Emperor and asked, "Can't you two break the shackles and open the Chaos Trench?" "Ka. Yi Qinghan clenched his fist and snorted, I can kill fur seals, but I can't open the chaos trench. Then stop when you're about to open it and leave it to those idiots. Sovereign Yi reminded. Yi Qinghan looked at the connection point between Chaos Heavenly Domain and Seeking Heavenly Domain. It had already been split, and below it was the most ancient cornerstone. It was impossible to open it as it was too hard. Opening the Chaos Trench was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Moreover, it was very dangerous. Not to mention whether it would affect him or not, the Chaos Trench could easily backflow into Chaos Heavenly Domain and affect the ancient immortal world. At this moment, on the third planet, other than the secondary saints, there was another circle. This circle was hidden behind the secondary saints of Kunlun. Even Tao Ancestor Star-Defying didn't know about it. Jade Court Sacred Territory. This was the gathering place of most of the people in the myths of the dragon-seeking nation. Myths were myths after all. Many of them were false and inaccurate, but some of them were correct. For example, the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, the human ancestor of various races, and some ancient mythical figures were all gathered here. Most of the mythical figures were already dead. The ancient gods before the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors had also fallen due to the battle with the secondary universe. Now, the ones left were the descendants of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors and some of the core mythical figures. Zhang Daoling was the only spokesperson in the human world. Not only was he responsible for guarding the secondary Kunlun sacred territory and preventing people from the secondary universe from entering the third planet to destroy the basic order, he was also responsible for finding people with immortal roots for the Jade Court sacred territory. Of course, he definitely had a job to cover up on the surface. He just didn't want ordinary people to frantically search for him. The person directly in charge of Zhang Daoling was a white-haired old man. Others called him the Elder Lord. He was white-haired and looked even more immortal than Zhang Daoling. No one knew how long he had lived. Master Elderly Lord, I've already met with the person from the inverse of the 5 elements. His worldview is very upright and he might be able to take on a great responsibility. However, there was another person from the secondary universe who entered the third planet with him. He was actually tainted with the great merit of a Renhuang patriarch. Therefore, his talent and strength are indeed outstanding. He should also be trustworthy. Zhang Daoling bowed and said. The Grand Supreme Elder nodded and said in a deep voice, "It's been hard on you all these years." "It's not hard at all. Compared to the human emperor and the sage, this is nothing," Zhang Daoling said calmly. Sigh. The Grand Supreme Elder sighed and placed his hands behind his back. He looked at the distant holy mountain. Master Lao Jun, should we give Yi Qinghan a push? Even if he does have the qualifications to become a sovereign, without our help, I'm afraid it will be very difficult. Zhang Daoling said in a deep voice, "Now, I see that the people from the secondary universe are eyeing him covetously. Even that little fellow, Star Defiance, wants to make a move on Yi Qinghan. They won't be able to do it alone. Help? Why shouldn't we help? The ancient gods have already fallen, the human emperor is old, and 2 of the 5 emperors are dead and 3 are seriously injured. We must push for a sovereign in the near future. As the saying goes, those who are not of our race must have different intentions. I don't mean to look down on the secondary universe, but the people from the secondary universe will definitely not care about the fate of the original universe. They only want to dominate everything. As for us, what we want is balance. Therefore, we will push the balance of the original universe's foundation and let the secondary universe merge into one to form 3 huge secondary realms. This will provide Yi Qinghan with a place to escape and turn around, the Grand Supreme Elder said firmly. Zhang Daoling's pupils constricted as he reminded in a hoarse voice, "Grand Supreme Elder, this isn't very good, right? It will lead to a lot of uncertainties. Moreover, this way, Yi Qinghan may be in more danger. The balance of the original universe's foundation is already tilted. Even if we don't push, the secondary universe will merge into one, the Grand Supreme Elder said coldly. Some people can't even distinguish between priority and secondary. This time, I will let them know that the order of priority and secondary cannot be reversed. It seemed that there was no other way. Death was the only way. The original universe's foundation was something that the original universe of the Qingtian domain had evolved on its own. It wasn't created by the ancient gods or the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. They didn't have the ability to do so. The original universe's foundation was made of ancient stone. There were gears rotating, and in the center, there was a round stone that looked like a millstone. This represented the macroscopic appearance of the entire universe. The round stone was the original universe, and the 4 sides were evolving into secondary universes. Previously, the fan shape was very regular, but now it was irregular. The gears were intersecting, which meant that the secondary universe was about to merge. The Grand Supreme Elder and Zhang Daoling stood at the original universe's foundation. They wanted to speed up the merging and let the secondary universe merge into 3 large secondary realms in advance. They could then shuttle back and forth between the 3 secondary realms through the 3rd planet. This way, they could escape and turn around. It would also be convenient for them to search for the mysteries of the universe. Perhaps they would have a chance to become a sovereign. Hua Hong, Zhang Daoling and the Grand Supreme Elder worked together to push the gears. However, they were as heavy as Mount Tai. Even if the 2 of them used all their strength, they couldn't quickly push the gears to merge. Hong. Buzz, the ancient immortal world shook as if the entire universe was moving. Yi Qinghan, the Flame Emperor, and the others trembled and almost fell to the ground. Their expressions changed drastically. What's going on? Yi Qinghan asked in a hoarse voice. The first to merge was the ancient immortal world and the 2 secondary universes next door. The divine bird's father was shocked. He didn't know what was going on, but he knew that the virtuous paragon of the original universe's 3rd planet was behind this. The Flame Emperor was also clueless. At this moment, he was very confused and shocked. In an instant, it felt as if heaven and earth were falling apart. The ancient immortal world suddenly released a wave of air that merged with at least the 2 secondary universes. The larger the secondary universes, the stronger their foundations, and the more stable the laws and principles of order were. Now that the ancient immortal world and the 2 secondary universes had merged, it was so stable that even a progenitor couldn't break it. The ceiling of the Seeking Heaven domain had become even stronger. The 2 supreme powerhouses, Tao Ancestor Star-Defying and the Yuan Venerate Tao Ancestor, flashed with cold light. In the end, they gave up on attacking the ceiling boundary of the Seeking Heaven domain. Since we all know that Yi Qinghan has a ruler's origin source, why don't we cooperate? Tao Ancestor Star-Defying said in a deep voice as he joined forces with the Yuan Venerate Tao Ancestor and appeared in a void. The Yuan Venerate Tao Ancestor stared at Tao Ancestor Star-Defying and said quietly, "Shall we split the ruler's origin source equally?" "Sure." Tao Ancestor Star-Defying had forgotten his original intentions. The reason the 3rd planet had pushed him out of the original universe and allowed him to cultivate showed that his talent was indeed superior to ordinary people and he had a chance to become a ruler. However, he seemed to have forgotten why the great sage of the 3rd planet had pushed him out. Some people forgot their priorities, but Tao Ancestor Star-Defying had forgotten his original intentions. This was unforgivable. Chapter 2966. The secondary universe was fused into 3 parts, forming the shape of a fan. The laws and principles of the 3 secondary universes were stable to the extreme and were close to the ancient 3rd planet. Even with Yi Qinghan's strength, he couldn't tear the earth apart. The fusion of the secondary universes formed 3 huge secondary realms, which made Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor shudder. However, they didn't know that this was man-made and that it was the sage-level existence of the 3rd planet that helped them escape. The galaxy was even more vast as the ancient immortal world and the other 20 to 30 huge secondary universe master planets fused together. Yi Qinghan led the Kuang Mansion's experts out of the chaotic heavenly domain and returned to the heaven-suppressing prefecture. He and Yan Emperor worked together to create a teleportation tablet that led directly to the Dark Moon planet. They could use the ancient torrent path to escape at any time. The Kuang Mansion's army was reorganized. The first and second camps of the Heaven Conquering Camp were combined into one army, which was officially named the Kuang Mansion Heaven Conquering Camp. The assassin army recruited many experts and roamed the current ancient immortal world. The people of the two secondary universes were at a loss as they didn't know what was going on. Yi Qinghan didn't attack the people of the other secondary universes. He just silently guarded the heaven-suppressing prefecture, waiting for the three supreme Tao ancestors to arrive. At that moment, the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestors and Tao ancestor star-defying were passing by other secondary universes when they discovered that all the secondary universes had fused. They were overjoyed and rushed into the current secondary realm from the intersection of a secondary universe near the ancient immortal world and the seeking heaven domain. As soon as they entered the secondary realm, both sides brought more than 100 experts with them. Most of them were at the Taigu Emperor realm, and there were also a dozen or so half-ancestors. Primordial Yin Yang, ancient celestial emperor, and another ancestor realm expert. In addition to these two super ancestors, their combat strength was definitely not to be underestimated. These ancestor realm experts from other secondary universes might be followers of the two Tao ancestors, but they would not fight for them. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan would not have needed to continue fighting. Boom boom boom, tap tap tap, under the leadership of the two Tao ancestors, more than 100 experts rushed to the ancient immortal world. The Assassin Legion quickly sent out a message. Yi Qinghan summoned Lin Wutian, Lu Feng, and Chu Shijun Xian, the three half-martial ancestors. Yan Emperor summoned Hualing Tian and Yi Qinqing as well, preparing for an unexpected battle. Under the boundless pressure, Shi Gu, Gu Qingyu, and Li Peiza broke through to the half-martial ancestor realm. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom, the crazed Manor army was densely packed and occupied strategic locations. Their battle flags swayed in the wind. Yi Qinghan and Yan Emperor stood proudly at the forefront with weapons in hand, staring at the 100 or so people on the other side. The Taigu Emperor had the advantage in numbers. Now that the secondary realm was stable and could not tear the earth apart, the damage they could cause was not terrifying. What was terrifying was the three ancestor realm experts and the two Tao ancestors. Everyone, calm down. Let's challenge them first and try to get rid of a Tao ancestor first. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly as he spoke in a low voice. Yan Emperor nodded. With one less Tao ancestor, these people would lose without a fight. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan walked into the distance with crazy hammer in hand and took the initiative to meet them. The ancient celestial emperor and primordial Yin Yang sneered. Yi Qinghan still wanted to fight at this time, but he was simply courting death. Crazed Manor would be destroyed because of this. Tao ancestor star-defying and the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestors were disdainful. Their goal was not to kill, but to seize the new order of supremacy. Yi Qinghan, on account of how difficult it has been for you to cultivate, hand supremacy over to me and I can guarantee your survival. You and I are both defying 5 elements inheritances. Once I become a ruler, you will be under one person and above countless people. Tao ancestor star-defying put his hands behind his back and spoke casually. He really did not treat Yi Qinghan as an opponent. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan slowly stabbed crazy hammer into the ground and stared at Tao ancestor star-defying. The other party's defying heavenly Tao was obviously stronger than his, so it would be very difficult to kill him. After all, both sides were too familiar with defying heavenly Tao. If they really fought, both sides would suffer more losses. My manor will definitely not hand over supremacy Yi. If you want to snatch it, you two might as well fight with me. Whoever wins will have the right to snatch supremacy. Yi Qinghan looked calmly at the Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestors and Dao Ancestor Star Defying and gestured with his hand. Do the two of you want to come at me together or one at a time? The two Dao Ancestors' mouths twitched. They had never expected to encounter such an arrogant progenitor. Primordial Yin Yang and the ancient Heavenly Emperor knew best whether he was arrogant or truly qualified. Neither of them was a match for Yi Qinghan. Even if they joined forces with the other person, Yi Qinghan would still be able to win miserably. If he fought against the Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestors or Dao Ancestor Star Defying, both sides would most likely suffer. Junior, you are too arrogant. Dao Ancestor Star Defying said coldly. Yi Qinghan said disdainfully, if you want to snatch something from my manor, you should at least weigh your own abilities. I will give the two of you a chance. As for the others, except for Primordial Yin Yang and the ancient Heavenly Emperor, you'd better leave this area and not get involved. Whoosh! The Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestor had made a name for himself earlier and had been flattered for countless years. Now that he had been provoked by Yi Qinghan, his old hand shook and his divine sword was unsheathed. No matter how stable the void was, it was still somewhat distorted. Kid, let me teach you how to behave. The Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestor waved his hand and ordered his loyal followers to retreat. Apart from the ancient Heavenly Emperor, at least half of the progenitor retreated. Whoosh! Dao Ancestor Star Defying also waved his hand and only Primordial Yin Yang retreated a few hundred meters to the left. Only Yi Qinghan and the Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestors were left on the huge battlefield. Even Dao Ancestor Star Defying had retreated far away. Tap, 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 the Flame Emperor stepped to the edge of the battlefield with the human ruler sword in his left hand and stared at Dao Ancestor Star Defying with undisguised killing intent. Yi Mingxi did not appear. Instead, she hid in the ruthless Great Path and waited for an opportunity to attack. As long as Yi Qinghan killed the Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestors, nothing would be a problem. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Boom. The Crazy Mansion army retreated slightly more than 1,000 meters and lowered their heavy shields. Their divine crossbows were aimed at the ancient Heavenly Emperor and Primordial Yin Yang. Even if they could not kill them, they could at least delay them for a while. The Flame Emperor stared at the ancient Heavenly Emperor with a strange look in his eyes. He gently shook his head, hinting that he should not interfere in this battle. The ancient Heavenly Emperor took a deep breath and avoided the Flame Emperor's gaze. Hum, boom. Whoosh. Yi Qinghan drew his blade and moved forward. The blade light was dazzling and as heavy as a star, it slashed toward the Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestors. It was like a wild goose landing on a flat land. It swept up energy in all directions and defied the heavens, but the blade aura could not break the laws of order. Hum. Whoosh. Whoosh. Bang. In an instant, the Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestor slashed out dozens of times and collided with the blade. However, it did not push Yi Qinghan back. Instead, it pushed him back more than 10 steps. Trash. How dare you steal from others with your strength? Boom. Bang. Yi Qinghan flipped his body and swung it 360 degrees, slamming it into the divine sword and almost breaking it. The divine sword howled and trembled, shaking the Yuan Venerate and Dao Ancestor's hand to the point of almost cracking. The Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestor had not expected Yi Qinghan's strength to be so terrifying and had been caught off guard. Chapter 2967. The Yuan Venerate Dao Ancestor was defeated in 2 moves. His bones hurt and his forehead broke out in cold sweat. You're old. It's time to step aside. I'm already being merciful by not snatching your treasures. How dare you try to snatch mine? Who gave you the courage? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Brat, relying on brute force? Remember, this is not the secondary sacred realm or the third planet. This is the secondary universe. This Tao ancestor will teach you what Tao law order is. The Yuan venerate Tao ancestor gently slid his sword and countless sharp swords appeared in front of him. Whoosh! Boom! Yi Qinghan's toes moved and an arc appeared under his feet. When his right foot landed on the ground, his footprints were clear. He held the hilt of his saber with both hands and retracted it slightly. His eyes could even distinguish the sword shadows and the body of his opponent. He could see through the essence of his opponent. Apart from speed and power, everything else was illusory. Yi Qinghan wanted to kill the Yuan venerate Tao ancestor in one strike and not give the ancient heavenly emperor, primordial yin yang, and Tao ancestor star defying a chance to help. At the moment, the Flame Emperor was watching from the side while Yan Yunbei appeared in the midst of the enemy with a dagger filled with poisonous corpse worms. He didn't want to kill the Taigu Emperor but the ancestor. He only had one chance. If he failed, he would also die. If he won, the ancestor's soul would not be able to escape being eaten by the poisonous and corpse worms. Everyone was focused on the battlefield and no one cared about Yan Yunbei. Although Yan Yunbei's cultivation base was not at the half-martial ancestor level, his combat strength was unparalleled. He could assassinate powerhouses without them noticing. Boom! Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Thousands of sword shadows soared through the air and attacked Yi Qinghan from different directions. However, Yi Qinghan could tell which were the afterimages and which were the real body's divine swords. He couldn't tell at all and kept slashing at the afterimages, causing him to retreat step by step. Pfff, a sword pierced through Yi Qinghan's defense and a bloody wound appeared on his left shoulder. It looked frightening, but in fact, it had no effect on Yi Qinghan at all. Thud, 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 Yi Qinghan kept retreating. The Yuan venerates and Tao ancestors fought more and more valiantly. After gaining the upper hand, they started to give up on defense and attack with all their might. Huff huff. Whoosh. Boom. Yi Qinghan was forced to retreat continuously. He rolled on the ground as if he was in a desperate situation. In the Tao law realm, one's cultivation base is king. Brat, you won't be able to withstand a single blow. The Yuan venerate Tao ancestor, who felt that he had won, mocked Luo Yunyang disdainfully. The followers of the Yuan venerates and Tao ancestors laughed heartily. They didn't put up any defenses and didn't even know why there was an extra person in the middle. Yan Yunbei smiled without saying anything. He hid a dagger in his sleeve and silently approached the ancestor. This move was very risky. Even if he successfully killed the ancestor, the chances of him escaping weren't high. However, it couldn't be helped. Even if Yi Qinghan killed the Yuan venerates and Tao ancestors, the other party still had 4 ancestors while Kuang Fu only had 3. This would cause great damage to Kuang Fu in a short period of time. Therefore, Yan Yunbei took the risk and came without any killing intent. That was why the ancestor didn't care that there was an extra person beside him. Huoling Tian and Li Peiza began to slowly shift their positions, preparing to bring Yan Yunbei back. Even if the two of them weren't ancestor, they were still very confident in bringing Yan Yunbei back from the Taigu Emperor. Whoosh, Yi Qinghan was defending passively and was suppressed by the other party's speed. His movement technique started to become chaotic. Tao ancestor Star Defying wasn't surprised when he saw this. Instead, he felt that it was normal. The 3 great Tao ancestors were high and mighty. Apart from the virtuous paragon of the third planet, who else could be a match for them? Underestimating the enemy was tantamount to a defeat. However, even though this Yuan venerate Tao ancestor had the upper hand and had given up on defense to focus on offense, he didn't show any obvious flaws. Therefore, Yi Qinghan still hadn't found a chance to kill him. At that moment, Supremacy Yi shrank his head and reverted to his original form before saying disdainfully to the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor, "Old thing, does your mother know that you came out to wander around without drinking milk?" The moment Supremacy Yi appeared, the energy source of the ruler was easily discovered by the three Tao ancestor level experts. Therefore, the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor was overjoyed and eager to take over Supremacy Yi. Therefore, he attacked frantically and a flaw quickly appeared. Supremacy Yi grinned. "You come out all day to show off. Your wife made you a huge cuckold. Do you know that? Seeing that you're so old, you can't satisfy your wife anymore. Ha ha ha. Evil creature, die." The Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor was furious. He swept his sword across as fast as lightning and the afterimages carried sword chi. It was difficult for ordinary people to distinguish the real from the fake, but the eruption of this sword revealed a huge flaw. Whoosh! Boom! Yi Qinghan flipped the heavy berserk blade in his hand and directly avoided the sharp sword, allowing hundreds of afterimages to hit him. The blade ruthlessly pierced the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor's astral energy defense and pierced his heart. Pft! Boom! Yi Qinghan's long blade pierced his chest and his left hand swung out fiercely toward the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor's head. Buzz! Ah! The Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor's vision turned black as he screamed and coughed up blood. The situation changed so quickly that the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor couldn't react in time. The Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor, one of the three great Tao ancestors, was severely injured and his soul was in a mess. Just as the progenitor in the crowd was about to make a move, a gust of wind swept past him from behind. Yan Yunbei's dagger slipped out of his sleeve and streaked across the air, piercing through the progenitor's lower jaw. Pft! Boom! Yan Yunbei's right hand burst forth with all its power and directly tore the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor's face. Bang! The Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor was caught off guard and subconsciously slapped behind him. However, Yan Yunbei's assassination experience was so rich that he had already dodged before the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor's face was torn apart. He rolled on the ground and shuttled through the crowd. There were so many Taigu Emperor that he couldn't attack at all. Otherwise, he could easily injure his companions. Swoosh! 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 Pft! Yan Yunbei shuttled through the crowd and flicked his wrist. The dagger constantly slashed past some Taigu Emperor and blood splattered everywhere. Ah! The Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor was the first to roar. He clutched his throat and screamed. His face quickly dimmed and his vitality dissipated. The internal organs of his physical body began to disappear. The piercing pain was unbearable. His aura burst forth and he used a dying strike in Yan Yunbei's direction. The aftermath actually killed more than 10 Taigu emperors. Pft! Yan Yunbei was blasted in the back by the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor's dying strike. His body flew into the distance like a kite with a broken string. Although half of this attack was blocked by the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor, it wasn't something Yan Yunbei could withstand alone. Pft! Boom! Yan Yunbei rolled in the chaos and was covered in blood. However, he knew that if he didn't escape now, he would definitely die. Whoosh! Yan Yunbei gritted his teeth and endured his soul that was about to faint. His strong willpower persisted and he escaped from the crowd and headed straight for Li Pei's location. Roar! Boom! The icy war spear in Li Pei's hand trembled and a huge spear shadow rushed toward the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor. Whoosh! Li Pei swooped down and swept Yan Yunbei away. He didn't rush in the direction of Kuang Manor because the ancient heavenly emperor was still in that direction. At that moment, Yi Qinghan revealed an ominous glint. His murderous intent erupted as he abandoned his blade and slammed his palms toward the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor's temples. Boom! Bang! The Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor's sword missed, but his palm slammed toward Yi Qinghan's chest. Crack! Two sounds of broken bones tore through everyone's eardrums. Yi Qinghan had smashed the Yuan Venerate Dao ancestor's skull. However, his ribs had also been broken by the Yuan Venerate Dao ancestor's dying strike. Roar! Dao ancestor star-defying was furious. His sword pierced through the clouds and headed straight for Yi Qinghan. Boom! The Flame Emperor had been waiting there for a long time. He drew his human ruler's sword and a swordlight rushed into the void to block Dao ancestor star-defying. Your opponent is me. The ancient heavenly emperor and primordial yin-yang charged toward Yi Qinghan at the same time. This was the best opportunity to kill Yi Qinghan and seize supremacy. Yi. Boom! Bang! The merciless Great Tao appeared as a figure tore through the void. The merciless Great Tao gathered in his palm and attacked primordial yin-yang. Yi Mingxi was also waiting. Only the ancient heavenly emperor was left. Yi Qinghan had kicked away the Yuan Venerate Tao ancestor. Even if he didn't die, he would be half crippled and wouldn't be of much use. He pulled out his berserk sword. Even if he was seriously injured, he would still kill the ancient heavenly emperor. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Yi Qinghan stomped the ground and swept his blade toward the ancient heavenly emperor. Whoosh! The blade light swept across and the ground shook. Yi Qinghan was like a tiger and a wolf. Behind him, dragons and tigers roared and shook the mountains and rivers. Quan Fu's army, attack! Leave no one alive today. Without the ancestor realm, only the Taigu Emperor and half-martial ancestors were left. Crazy Manor also had its own army. Whoosh! Woo woo woo, the bugle horn of war sounded and the army got into formation. The array formations were constantly changing. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.